Welcome to Dialog Choices podcast. Someone didn't finish their homework. Can you guess who?
Why are you putting my name in the comments? What's fucking wrong with you people? I did it.
Andrew is the kind of person that finishes his homework.
No, I'm not.
Oh fuck! I unplugged my headphones.
Oh, you can't hear us. It was Keith. Oh,
Damn it.
I finished my essay over a week ago. Damn it! Now I'm saying an essay because Andrew, you ruined me.
I told you it's an essay. Your brain
It is
agrees
like,
with me.
it is very school. Like
it is a short story.
Like
it is a short
Colonel
story.
just woke
Yeah,
up
this
to
is
the
what you would
nightmare
do in
that
school. You would
that
write small
Colonel
essays.
just woke up to the nightmare that he didn't do his homework.
I didn't
But
wake
at least
up.
he has
It's
his
9
pants
p.m.
on.
or 10 p.m. Yeah.
Yeah.
So So a couple of weeks ago, we decided to ask people for suggestions about writing a short story, so we could have fun in the Dialog Choices podcast. And then each one of us picked a thing. What did you pick, Keith? The other way around. Pick Keith. That's how it goes.
Pick Keith.
Yeah.
I did The Sky's No Longer Blue. Or I guess it was you walk outside and the sky is no longer blue.
Whimsical.
That seems pretty fun.
It's very open. I went on a walk when we were thinking about doing this, and I landed on this phrase, and then I iterated through like 4 versions of what it could be. Because there's like obviously it could be like there could be like some kind of like catastrophe that's happening, or a glitch in the Matrix, or a bunch of other like sci-fi or dystopian or apocalypsy implications. And then I threw all those ideas in the garbage.
Oh.
And you made it about bunnies instead.
I went thoroughly up my own ass with this one.
Nice.
Shall we hear it today, or is it going to be Andrew's?
I could just get it out of the way. I'm reminded of the fact that I hate presentations, and like, well, I like the idea of writing something. I didn't like the idea of actually doing it afterwards. So once that realization started hitting, I'm like, why did I do this? Why did I come up with this idea? This is a bad idea.
I have
I have to read for the
that.
class. That was like the worst nightmare.
I have
We
like the
could
inverse
read.
problem where I love to present, but I do not want to do any of the work. Like, if you just hand me a script, I will just read it without any hesitation. But if you're like, write and present, I'm like, okay, I'll do one of those things. Like,
Yeah.
We could read your story for you. That way you don't have to present. You read one of our stories.
no. That's not how you get full grade.
That's not what this is.
Exactly.
Yeah, we
about
all
you,
wrote
Andrew?
short stories. Well, some of us
what
wrote
was your-
short stories. Some of us did.
What was your story, Andrew?
My story was a plagiarist has a midlife crisis and wants to make something original.
Oh, that's
And
interesting.
yeah, I think I had a pretty fun time with it. I think I have a really good premise and really fun jabs at I don't know what you'd call like jabs at just content creation and creativity. Stuff like that. So
Well,
what about you, Colonel? Which one did you pick?
Mine is a city where every resident is a time traveler.
What a nightmare.
What a nightmare.
it's-
Yeah. I don't
It's difficult, but I made it more difficult than that. I mean,
You have an
I haven't
outline
made
at
it.
least or something?
I do. Well, I don't have the ending, which is important, so I'm gonna have to rewrite the beginning to fit the ending. But I do have an
that is
outline.
very
Oh.
important, yes.
Yeah.
So imagine a cross between the Matrix and Cowboy Bebop. That's the tone that I'm aiming for.
Wow.
And I hope-
So don't get your expectations up.
Well, I'm not a good writer, so I was actually also struggling with the tone of writing, but then I went for something more utilitarian. I was trying to be very highfalutin at the beginning, and I was like, I don't have space for this. I can write like 200 words in that tone, but not 2,000.
I found that I literally wrote the ending first.
Yeah, that's a good way, I feel.
Then I did structural
Yeah.
weird shit, so I had to I had to outline my entire timeline multiple times, where I had like the chronological timeline and then the actual order in which the story is told afterwards.
Mm-hmm.
Like I went structure
No.
weird. I don't know.
Shall we dive in?
Fine. How do I signify? I don't know how to. Part of my worry is that I'm like, this thing's like complicated in a way that like I think works in text, but I'm like, how do you follow what's happening when I read it? How do you denote not paragraph breaks, but like scene breaks, or like, you know, like when there's an extra space and the line breaks, and that denotes that it's now a different scene or something. Like there's some sort of time or location skip that happens in books all the time. Like verbally, I would just keep reading, which doesn't work. And I think an audio drama podcast would have like a fucking musical interlude thing. Is how they do, like, listen to like the fucking like no sleep podcast for the Whistlers or whatever, and it's like there's like a fucking audio team and voice actors, and they do something to denote those, because mine has a bunch of those, and I'm like, I don't know how to communicate those.
Okay, we can figure this out. We can communicate this behind the scenes, because we're on Discord right now. So you just you let us know, and me and Andrew we do some acapella kind of musical interlude, and it works, right? Have you never done acapella, Andrew?
What is it?
I mean, I'm aware of the concept, but no, I haven't found myself like particularly in a situation where I could do that.
Do you like beatboxing or something? Maybe a little bass line?
Beatboxing.
Again, I'm aware of the concept.
It'd be helpful if I had a soundboard, but I don't have a soundboard.
I mean, soundboard definitely would solve the issue. Andrew, do you have a musical interlude in your soundboard?
I need to have like a thematically appropriate soundboard sound.
What kind of thematically appropriate? I mean, I got a lot of sounds here. But if they're the right sounds is kind of a...
I don't think... Music is very specific. Like, do you have multiple musical notes in your...
I mean, I have multiple music.
Oh, really?
Most of his buttons are comedy
like
things, which is not what the story is.
Is it a mystery? Are you trying to solve a detective case?
Tonight we figured.
Wait,
that's great. I love that.
What is that from? Is that from Phoenix Wright?
No, that's from Death Note. That's L's theme.
Death Note.
Yeah. So I've got that.
But it needs to be, it needs just to be 3 or 4 notes. It's and that's it, because it's just an interlude. It's not. We're not setting the tone. Because if you were setting that, if this had a backing track, then we would need to have different backing tracks for each scene. And that would be high production value.
I've got cliffhanger music.
I love it. I love it.
I understand
like
that
that
meme now. Yeah, I understand what's going on with that song now. I just thought it was a nice song. I didn't know that it was a thing.
I've got
it's lovely. It's a lovely meme.
I've got music for
those interested in knowing the song. It's
what?
I was just gonna say the name of the song. It's
Roundabout by Yes.
By Yes, yes.
Yeah. I've got music for Unity, so like a togetherness song.
That's good.
And then
it's worth pointing out that's the USSR anthem, not the International, but still.
What else? I mean, you've got, if you got a set romantic mood.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
I don't really know what else I got here.
That one is
comedic failure.
George Michael's.
Oh wait, that's the wrong one. Sorry, I have 2 trumpets.
That's also pretty. That's pretty good as well.
That's disappointment. This is comedic failure.
That's from.
What the fuck? How big is the soundboard?
That's from Curb Your Enthusiasm, or is that another? Is there another one before that?
No, I think I believe that's the ending credits for That's Curb Your Enthusiasm?
I'm pretty sure it is. Man, I'm
Yeah,
getting all
that's
of
that's the ending
it's funny
credits.
that
That's the ending
it's
credits.
familiar, but I think I only have heard it in like videos. Like
Yeah.
essays.
Yeah, they're all meme stuff at this point. But yeah, the
Do you have any Initial D stuff? Any Euro 4? What is it called?
I don't have any Initial D stuff actually. I do
It's
I
a very
do need to
niche
get
kind of
some.
meme.
Yeah, you know what? Now that you mentioned that, I feel like I'm missing that. I should definitely have that. I've got.
It's amazing.
I do
great.
have. If you are feeling like a joke didn't land, but you want it to land, I have that as a backup solution.
The flutes? I love that.
Just fucking start. You just make a bad pun and then you just hit the button. Just fuck you.
And then of course,
like
if
that.
someone threatens to dox me, I'll do it myself.
Sacramento, California.
That's
The,
from Muslim 3.
Yeah, there's not. I mean, that's for music. There's not a lot. You know, there's like only so much. There's only so much meme music you can possibly have. I guess there's probably. I'm trying to think here. I bet I can find like a.
I really
I'll just have to say flashback and now.
Oh, you know
yeah, you
what?
can see-
I am missing. That's what I'm missing. I am missing
You're
flashback.
Downloading it now.
Flashback.
What
is
Is
that?
is there a flashback sound?
The
Yeah,
does that mean?
absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah, a harp kind of arpeggio thing. I
Yeah,
really
there it
like
is.
that flute, that really badly played flute for bad jokes that is going
Slide
around.
whistle?
No, it's like it's basically like a really badly played song on a flute, and it's like it's really bad. Adam something does that in a couple of his videos.
I'm genuinely terrified of what the sound
no
is.
idea.
Like, I don't know.
I have no
I don't know
idea
what the
what you're
sound is, but it
talking about.
sounds terrifying. Like
it's
if
I'm like, is it like the Jurassic Park theme on a kazoo or whatever?
Yeah.
Oh,
It's a
God,
kazoo.
that's
It
the
might be a
best.
kazoo. Or a recorder, like a flute and a recorder. For some reason, is two different things.
Was it a harmonica? I don't remember. Oh, it was
No,
a
it's
recorder. It was a Jurassic Park theme on a recorder. I remember that.
Yeah, I think any song works for that, but there's one in particular. Anyway, I'll look up the meme after the thing and I'll send you. But it's
I didn't mean to
our
press
audience is
that.
very
That's my bad. I'm
on
sorry.
flick, so they know all of
On
that stuff.
flick.
on flick, what?
I don't know what on flick means. You know, slick. They do that. They fuck with it.
On fleek.
Oh, come on. English is weird with the E's and the U's.
I know, just flick is another word. It's way funnier.
Flick, yeah. I have no idea what fleek? It's fleek?
Yeah, fleek.
Okay. Fleek.
It's not. I don't know if I can call it English. It's just stuff people have made up.
It's English people say it, so it's English.
I guess.
Never
yeah.
mind the fact that they're American.
Fleek. Is that even like a definition word? It shows up on Google does bring it up on fleek. Extremely good, attractive, or stylish.
See, that's our audience.
Popularized by
Not
2014
or, it's
video
and.
post on social media service Vine by Kayla Newman. Peaches Monroe.
Oh, it's an
I don't know,
eyebrows related
I
thing. isn't
barely
it?
know what any of those words are, but it's from a dead platform, Vine, which is dead.
Oh no, my new memes that I think are new are actually really old.
It's like 8 years old.
Oh my god, I am feeling my hair falling out of my hair particles.
Fleek is really old. Whoa.
Yeah, that's pretty old. Okay, finally. So now
Yeah.
I have flashback sound effects now. So
What does that mean?
we're all set.
It's like a comedy sound. I can't do that.
Isn't
It's
all
very
flashbacks
crazy.
comedy? Like no one thinks about a flashback in serious mode.
Zero. Famously, Game of Thrones, zero flashbacks.
Yeah, every flashback in Game of Thrones starts like that.
Literally
Game
was
of
the
Thrones
fucking
is-
cartoons.
Was I watching the wrong one?
I don't know what you watched. Didn't you stop after season 1?
Probably.
Or did you secretly watch for a little bit?
You like
until
watched
somebody
season
else
1 and then spoiled it for me and then stopped watching.
I did my time. Then I did my duty. I tried saving you, and you didn't listen.
There was good times along the way until that happened.
Yeah,
Maybe the
every
books
bad
will end
relationship
well.
has good times. That doesn't
Well,
change
the
the
books
fact.
might end well.
Yeah,
and then
They
we're
probably
fine.
will. They probably will, but even if they end
Tell that-
exactly like the
tell that to the guy who has to write it after Martin passes away and doesn't finish it. I guess he's going to be really
fine.
excited.
He's good.
He's fine right now, but he's not finishing the story right now.
He's gonna do it. Don't worry about it. Let the dude rest.
All right, let's get this behind me. Why did I do
All
this to
right.
myself?
Buckle up.
No matter, again, if you have too much hesitation, if you want like time to prep, I'm more than
No,
happy
that just
to-
makes it worse. That just makes me think about it
Does
longer.
it? The expectation?
Yes. There's literally nothing. There's no upgrade about that. I actually did a whole class presentation just about being nervous about doing class presentations. I went all meta with it. I had like a joke where like on the bus to the class on the day of doing the presentation that I knew I had to do, that the character like tried listening to music to distract himself, and it was the fucking 8 Mile song, which is exactly about the same emotion. There's no escape in art, only reflections.
There's no escaping homework either, as it turns out.
After all these years, you're late for your assignment. The
I don't
teacher's
like
asking
it.
for everyone to turn in their essays, and you have nothing.
I didn't even. Oh, the thing is, I did start, but I might as well have not.
we literally had double the time that we originally had.
That only makes it worse.
Yes.
I did not. The thing is, I didn't make my homework for like 4 years, for my last 4 years of high school, any homework whatsoever.
What does that mean? What do you mean last
Wait,
4 years of high school?
But how many
Were
years
there
does
mo-
high school have?
Were there more years of high school before the last 4?
So from grade 7 to grade 12, so
Oh.
from grade 9 to grade 12, I didn't do any homework.
Okay. Yeah, we only have 4 years of high school, so I was like, hang on a minute
doesn't
here.
count.
What do
It
you
doesn't
mean?
count the 7 and the 8.
What do
You
you
didn't
mean
take
the
it up
last
high school,
4?
Keith.
Yeah, I didn't take enough high school. That's what's wrong with me. I need to go back.
You need to just go
They didn't
consult
finish
your
me.
doctor.
You know, we have I forgot the middle school's like a weird American bullshit thing where we're like, we need more schools. What if there was
We
another
also have
school?
middle school. It's the 5th and the 6th grade. It's the middle school.
Elementary schools K through 6.
No. You're already an adult by the time you reach 5th
That's
grade.
fucking
That's how it felt
7
to
years
me.
of elementary school. That's so many years.
That is a lot. a
Yes, and then 7 and
Yeah.
8th is middle school, and then 9 through 12 is high school.
7 and 8, only 2. It's not. Why is that even there? You might as well just.
I don't know.
you know,
I think it's framed around puberty, maybe. Like when people massively start changing, like physically,
Oh.
they like are grouped with people that are the closest to them in each stage or something. That's my guess based on literally never checking. I just remember like being in school and thinking 6th graders were these massive Goliath people, which was really funny. And then of course 6th graders are little shits. So like I don't
They're
know
adults.
how the
Keith.
fuck that was ever a thing. I thought 6th graders now not adults.
When you are a 6th grader, you feel like an adult.
Legal adults are
Uh,
barely adults. Have you talked to them? They're
When you're
idiots.
18, you
No.
feel like an adult.
Like,
There's a pandemic
It's
going
only-
on. I'm not supposed to
it's
talk
only-
to anyone.
you're
it's
like
only when
everyone's
you're,
an idiot until they're at least 25.
That's
I have never been an
And
idiot.
some of us
That
make
is
the
a
mistake
very-
of recording several
Only
years
past
of
me.
that period.
Only
That's
past
very
me has been an
generous.
idiot. Present me is never an idiot.
Andrew and I have like years of footage of us being idiotic lower 20s. It's terrible. That's a bad time to have witnesses.
I'm so glad that I was never alive during those time periods.
You were never
Well-
was that I was
That wasn't me.
I was
I don't know
born
who
at
you're
age
talking
28
about.
without a face.
Yep,
Wait, is-
just straight, like showed up. That's it. Story prompt.
Fully formed like a teleporter accident.
Exactly.
No, don't make
Uh,
teleporters. That's even harder. That's even harder than time travel.
It is. It scares me to think
teleporter
that
accident
there's.
problems, questions, stories are great.
It seems
fun.
it's crazy
They're
because like
horrible.
I love when Facebook reminds me that I had a Facebook when Facebook was first made. So it's showing
I
me
did as
stuff
well.
from like back in high school, and it's like, hey, remember this? And you're like, oh, delete. Like you like Facebook's like, here's a thing, and you're like, oh, thank God, I can just finally find that and remove it now. Like I've slowly been trying to like purge every single line, because like if you delete,
Every thought you had as a 20-year-old.
yeah, because like if you delete your
internet.
Facebook, it never deletes. It doesn't go away. It just like disables, but it's still sitting there somewhere. And so my idea is like, well, I might as well just like actually remove this content by hand. And then you can close the account on top of that. And then it's even more of a process to get your information back. But it's like fun to
Then the more that you keep talking about being ashamed of your past, the more I was just incentivized to like fucking Wayback Machine you.
go for it. If
I
it's
did already.
possible.
You see, you know, I
What?
found like I've literally shown it to you before. I found like art that you're like ashamed of, and,
Oh,
like
yeah.
blog posts and things.
I wonder how that extends to like certain websites.
Actually, like,
Wayback-
it really sucks that there's websites that just like chronicle you essentially.
Oh wait, the
Like,
thing
can
about the Wayback
you-
Machine is that it works really well for, keeping the things you don't want about your personal things. But then when you're working on websites and when you're developing stuff, you're like, I really want a Wayback Machine from this particular page. Nope, they didn't index that bit.
Oh yeah, it's totally random indexing.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I mean,
that's
it's great.
the...
I donate to them when I buy on Humble Bundle.
It turns
think
out
it's to
the
them, but I
internet
get
is
it.
big.
It is.
Okay, so it is, I did type that in right. Good. That means you can't Wayback Machine that, which is good.
That.
Yeah.
I think Keith is trying to Wayback Machine his essay.
What?
I was
There's,
trying to remember what the word was. Keith is trying
Yeah,
to
I think
skip the
Keith's
2 hours.
like,
We're already 22 minutes.
I just
Come on.
need to, I just need to slowly waste time until you're at. And then, oh shit! Oh, my food's here. I guess we got to go
Nope.
for today.
I do think Keith's Wayback Machining thing was like what like spawned a couple of weeks of me trying to gain access to like an old live journal so I could lock it and like remove it, because like that was literally the
I have a folder called the Andrew Archive.
yeah, great, cool. I like to think that like the some government agency has one
Yeah.
too, but theirs is far less embarrassing. It's just a lot
I've
of
got
really
your
dumb.
I've got your One Piece fan art. That's like a comic in
Nice.
the universe.
Yeah, that's
There's a guy with a beard that has a hand.
yeah.
Don't people normally have hands?
The beard has a hand.
Oh,
The
okay.
beard has a hand.
Okay, that
Yeah, I think if I remember correctly, that was like it was a create your own character and their own devil fruit ability, and I think I just made mine.
So get me to
Forget what it was,
3,000 on Patreon, and I'll expose
What the
Andrew
fuck?
for
What
the
the
world.
fuck? Wait a second.
I'm joking.
That's illegal.
It's not revenge porn. It's like revenge cringe.
Yeah, there you go. That's what I was trying to think of. I just like, yeah, it is not revenge porn, but it is like some type of revenge. It is some revenge. I just don't know what the word is.
French cringe.
Yeah, that's awful. That's probably worse than I think that's worse than anything else I could think of as reverse cringe. Like I think I could emotionally recover from my nudes being put on the internet, but I don't think I could recover from cringe. That like if everyone knew about like the stuff I posted in like high school, I'd probably die. Oh my god.
You wouldn't.
I don't know.
I
honestly,
die a little
look,
bit whenever I encounter it.
I have 89 journal entries from like beginning of high school. Trust me.
Sometimes I'll find a comment I made on an old video 10 years ago because it's still the same account, but now it's a fucking verified account making the stupid comment because it was like me as like a 19-year-old saying something, but that account is now given like the perceived authority of like 32-year-old me with a fucking check mark and shit. And it's like, I don't like that.
Yeah, I
then
can
the
understand
algorithm's
that.
like, let's show this comment to everyone. And I'm like, no. I can't
can
be held
understand that.
responsible for all the things I said when I was 22 years old. I don't remember any of it. Should have just started over with a new identity.
That is, yeah.
Every day I honestly regret keeping this username. Like as the days continue, it becomes harder and harder.
Because there's such a long history tied to it.
Yeah, it's like worse. There's this weird I don't know, like I'm trying to think of, like, and there's in the beginning there was anonymity, and then there became like kind of a need to tie yourself to an account. Like you wanted to have, like if you wanted to have access to Facebook, you have to put your name in. You can't just be like, my name's Doodiddle. And it's like, okay, Doodiddle, like what? Give me your social now.
It's super weird that people's like Facebook accounts come up as like search results.
Yeah. But like for me, it's even like I feel even worse because you could just type in Knackleson and Knackle and you'll just get this swath, just like pure unfiltered mess of history in all corners of, like, somehow I've extended tendrils to almost every facet of the internet in some way. I have like an account on some drink mixing website. I don't even remember making an account on that, but it's mine. I can access it. I got the password for it.
It's
it
was from EverQuest, wasn't it? Your name?
Yeah, my name is from EverQuest. So like I played EverQuest
you made a
when I was
character
13.
and then you made another character that was a son of your other character, and that became
Correct.
your name. Was their familial relation?
Yeah, because I was lazy, and so I came up with a really good name once, and then couldn't make up another name, so I just took that name and added a K to it, and then I was making a username for, I think before then my username was like cmanic29. Like,
was there ever even a second Knackle, or was the second Knackle's entire name actually Knackle, son of Knackle?
No, there was a second Knackle. So there was NAKL, which was the first, and then I needed to make another character, and I was like, shit, I can't make up a good name, so I made NAKKL. And the joke became I was playing on that second character, and one of the people I played with was like, wait a second, I thought you have a character named Knackle already. And I was like, no, this is Knackle. That's the son of Knackle. And they're like, oh, okay. And so that just like stuck. And at the time, I think my username was like cmanic, because I spelt maniac wrong. And I wanted to get rid of that because I hated how embarrassing that failure was. But it was like I couldn't think of a better username.
Manic is a word. That's the thing you could roll with.
One, I misspelled manic anyways, but two, it sounds like manic when you read it out loud phonetically. It sounds like manic, but it's not spelt like manic. It's spelt like maniac, missing one letter. Like,
just reminds me of when one of my friend's main characters in Diablo 2 was named Sniper. It's an Amazon named Sniper because they couldn't spell sniper.
No.
Sniper.
Oh no!
What a crash and burn. Meanwhile, my name's practically Noise. I was trying to use Sebastian as my username on Xbox because I was using it in German class, and then it was taken obviously. So that I just kept adding. It was like my fucking like 10th like most done with this attempt at getting an untaken name, and so I just ended up with SB at the end, which is basically Noise. I think the logic was just that those would be my initials if my name was Sebastian. That's it. That's the entire logic. It's stupid.
I mean, it works.
And now it's my entire career is tied to that URL, that username. Like it's my Twitter, it's my YouTube, it's my Patreon account. Womp womp.
But I don't know. I mean, I think there's some value in having something consistent like that. I think it is nice to be able to, because again, this is like you think of in the past, people have photographs and videos of themselves. They keep it in a shitty box and they put it in a shitty attic, and they come
Look at
back
my
every
shitty box.
yeah, and like every 15 years they come back and they're like, man, remember when I like enjoyed living? And they pull out this box and they look at the pictures. And like there's kind of
the
a
box of lies.
yeah, basically. But
Look at this time where we smiled for 3 seconds in a vacation we hated.
exactly. And you don't think about that. You just think of the fact that like, oh yeah, I remember we did this thing, and you kind of your brain just like nicely glosses over all the bad parts. And
Yeah.
and like being able to have a consistent username on the internet can feel kind of like that. You can just go on Google and be like, haha, and you can like look up your username and find a random account and be like, oh yeah, I remember I went to this site to do this thing. Like there's fun, and you can find like forum posts from yourself. Like I can look through all of these journal entries and it's like reading a diary. I
Look
can
at
be
all
like,
these dumb
wow,
arguments you got on forums.
exactly. And and it's just fun
It just
to
reminds
be
me
able
of me
to
finding fucking H Bomber guy's old I found his old account on like Something Awful and saw like his fucking that on Something Awful they have a moderation history, so you can see how many times he got banned by like Brutal Moose and various other people on Something Awful, and like they have notes that are like, you little shit. like he was clearly a shit stirrer and he got banned or suspended like 8 times, I think. And I'm like, that's just all that's just listed there, and I'm like, all right, well, that's funny.
yes, that's insane. But it's really
forever.
It's real fun to be able to have that access, to be able to go back and look at that stuff. At least I think. And I also think that there's there's a level of, while things are cringy, like again, looking at some of this stuff, like some of these entries are high top tier cringe stuff that you could probably kill somebody with.
Wow.
It's
alone.
bad. Like this is the kind of stuff that like I don't know, when I read it, I'm like, man, I think it would have been easier to get like stabbed to death than finishing this paragraph. And it's a good reminder of like, man, look at that sad, pathetic, I would have pushed down a staircase person I used to be. And I am just very glad that someone didn't push me down a staircase, because I got to be a better person. At least tangentially. Like right now, I think I'm a better person. But in like 10 years, I'm going to look back and rewatch this podcast, and I'm going to wish again that I could have gone back in time and pushed myself down a staircase. It will always continue happening. But seeing that progress could be really nice. Seeing that, like, I don't know, looking at like the person I used to be and being like, man, that sucks. I don't ever want to go back to those times in my life. That's awful. But also, wow, look at that. I successfully got out of those places. I don't think like that anymore. I don't know how to describe some stuff that I wrote in a positive light nowadays. Like, glad whatever that was isn't now anymore. And like you can see like the kind of like you talk about like H Bomber guy. Like if you look at a video that he made today and look at forum posts he made 10 years ago, I bet you it's a night and day difference in the type of approach he makes to communicating with other people. And likewise, like this to me, like seeing some stuff is a good approach to the way that I think as a person, the way that I think about like myself and interacting with other people. It's always fun to see. And this would be hard to do if everything was so, if everything was, could just vanish at the drop of a hat, you know, like if you could just, if you just like threw away an entire account and moved on with life and just forgot what that account was. You're like, oh, I don't remember what username I used back in high school. It's gone now. Like, that's crazy to me. That's crazy that someone can just, I still have my AOL account, like my first AOL account. I still have that. I still have access to that account and all the emails in it and all of the, like, just everything.
Wow,
like,
really?
Yeah. Like I am terrified of losing anything that I've created on the internet, except unless it's something that I hate so much that I'll remove it myself. But I don't want to just like let something vanish out of my own reach. So like, yeah, I own every account I've ever made. I have access to it. I have like my poor LastPass is just like such a mess. It sits there and carries such a burden it doesn't want to, where it's like, I don't even know what half these websites are, if they're real anymore, but you've got accounts in them that you haven't changed the password in like 15 years. Can you please? And it's just
It's
like,
all
I
alerts.
don't, yeah, but I can, I could go to some stupid fucking drink mixer website, log into my account and look at a post I made about like, hey, how do you make a sangria? Why did I need that? I don't even remember why I needed that information. And I don't know why I didn't just fucking Google it. Why did I go into a whole forum to find out how to make a sangria? I don't know. But I have it. It's there forever now. It's mine. I did that. And I don't know. It's neat. It's neat, the kind of catalog that there can be on the internet. But the inverse here is that I have access and control over that information, right? And some people may not. Some people may lose access to their stuff. And so there's a culture now of like memeing. So someone could post a dumb, embarrassing picture of themselves on the internet, and it will just forever be like what's the word I'm looking for? Encased in stone on the internet. There's like some poor kid with a shitty school photo, and forever he will be like ridiculed as an ugly kid. And I don't know, he probably doesn't look like that anymore. He probably looked like that 40 years ago, I bet, at this point now. But, and it's like that sounds scary to me. The idea that you can make posts in such a long time ago and not have the control over access to it is what scares me. Like, I don't know, like a TikToker, like someone could just repost their videos or like post their videos in videos, and now like they can't get rid of that video in video. Could be them doing some kind of like cartwheel onto a dog, and that just will haunt them for the rest of their life. And
it's like terrifying, the idea of growing up with social media as a modern institution and being like, oh wow, me being an embarrassing teenager can literally make me like famous in the worst way.
Yeah, and like my stuff, like a live journal did nothing to me. Like no one was gonna find this live journal and prop me up into stardom, right? It's so like I got off easy. Like same with it, shitty forum post. No one was gonna take my garbage forum post and propel me into a new light. Even if they did, it like my name isn't really attached to it. It's just a username. And even still, at some point, like if it's so bad, you can, I guess, I don't know. I guess I wouldn't get rid of it. But the point is that like it's still unlikely that someone would propel such isolated stuff to stardom like you have now with social media, where it's so much more efficient. It's actually like encouraged more. Like a forum doesn't encourage you to take a screenshot of someone's message, but Twitter does. Twitter like actively the culture of it is actively to like take pictures of what people say because it might go away and you got to keep that forever. And you're like, that's kind of scary. I get it. Like, yeah, sometimes it's good to have that information for like a bad actor or whatever, but it's also still scary that someone could just have that about, like Keith's blackmail folder for me. Someone could just have that on somebody for life. Just, you can't escape that. It's just there forever.
It's in my memes folder.
Oh yeah, because you have memes. But like the idea that like someone could, I bet you there's somebody who does like one of those Twitch stream, Twitter posting shit where they're just on Twitter for like 8 hours a day, record and streaming themselves doing that. They probably have like a folder on their desktop of like all these screenshots of individual users, and it's probably organized and really creepily meticulously built out. So that way, like, I don't know, someone shows up and says like, man, I can't believe John Madden says he doesn't like the feel of football on his fingers. He's like, oh, I got a tweet that he posted that he does. And he just like opens that folder up and pulls that tweet and throws it on the internet again. He's like, you'll never run, Madden. You love those footballs. And it's like, oh God, all right. Like, fuck, man, that's brutal. Like I don't know. I look at posts that I made in high school, and that's definitely not a human being anymore. That person's dead. That person died so long ago. And the thought that someone could look at what that human said and attach it to another is terrifying to me. But they can't now because I've meticulously made sure they can't. But regardless, someone could, and like that may happen now. There may be a kid out there who's posting dumb hot takes on the internet, and someone took a picture of it and is like, oh, just you wait, kid, in 10 years I'm coming for you. And I don't know, that's scary to me. How do you like post stuff? How do you post some stuff with that kind of longevity? But I guess, when you're not famous, you don't think about it. When you know people aren't paying attention to you, you can get away with whatever. But I don't know.
You know who can't get away with anything? Or with, at least with this thing? It's Keith. He can't get away. He can't.
Tell your story, Keith. We've given you a lot of lead time. The anxiety has lowered now. Let's get into it.
I got distracted. I was reading your old blog posts.
What are you doing? Get the fuck off my blog posts. What's wrong with you? Seriously.
I just wasn't ready to hear I wasn't ready to hear about Rob, Arnie, and Don. I'm like, oh,
God
wow.
Damn it, man.
Fucking forgot about them.
Facebook still reminds me of that. Facebook will just randomly show up like, hey, do you want to go back and listen to them? They have a podcast now. I'm like, I don't care. I don't
remember Rob, Arnie, and Don? They sold mugs.
I saw one of their cookbooks. It's actually pretty good, though. I don't like the people, but I will admit that Rob makes a really good turkey, and he has a good recipe for it.
I can taste it through the radio.
Exactly. I can taste it through the radio. His politics are shit, but his cooking, sublime. Like
I don't remember any of that anymore.
It's not great. It was really it's funny because I think back on it now, and I like, especially I can hear what was it? I can remember exactly the kind of philosophy that each character had, which is why the show worked. And realizing like in my head, like, oh no, like you have a staunch pull up by your bootstraps hyper capitalist kind of guy who's like low on, he's like very low on government reach, but very big on corporate or like entrepreneurship. Like the idea that everyone should be able to make a lot of money, but also it doesn't matter if, like people suffer from poverty. And then you have someone who's just like, I don't know, intrinsically ingrained in very old, easily proven to be racist views, but like you just don't want to admit that you have these kind of views. Like you don't want to admit that it's you that's the problem. You want to just live in the fantasy that everyone else is just misinterpreting. And then you have someone who just doesn't exist as a person. I don't know how you describe them. They just like flounder about with their ideas. They don't lean one way or the other. They just kind of like perfectly encapsulate like conservatism. They just like, sure, whatever that person says, I agree with today. That person's wrong. Nope, never mind. I've flipped over. Like it's just like this weird wishy-washy level. And so it works perfectly. You have two people that are like each side is in the same, they're all in the same side, right? On the political spectrum. But the nice part is that they're all the different like parts of it. So you have someone who's in the dead center, and then it gets like, they're kind of in the middle, and then, oh, that's a little too far for me. And like you can just, but it never goes to the opposite side, right? It always stays on one particular side of the spectrum. So you have this perfect, you feel like you're getting a lot of different views, but you're only getting a lot of different views from one side. And that's Rob, Arnie, and Don. And then
that is a very common strategy.
And then
I didn't realize I was like
Arnie,
awakening something.
And then Arnie tried to kill himself, and so he got off the show.
Whoa.
And so then that ended. Yeah, that spiraled into a bad. He like got very, very, very unhealthy mental state, and then kind of like he just was kicked off the show basically, and then turned into like a general radio host. But I think he just never fit in anywhere else, and I don't know what he's doing with his life anymore because I don't listen to radio because I live in the future where I can just pay for non-commercial entertainment without bad people. I just want to listen to rock music. I don't care about talk shows.
You say that. Do you listen in Spotify perchance?
No, I don't. I don't use Spotify. I use YouTube Music because Spotify is not great. I would like, well, especially because I try to listen to anime music, and I don't want to. And Spotify doesn't have
not a whole
that.
lot there. Yeah.
Yeah. Spotify is only good for podcasts, basically. I do have a Spotify account.
You say good.
but
You
Yeah,
say
it is.
good.
it is good. It has a lot of really good true crime podcasts that don't exist anywhere else for some reason. Like they're not on YouTube and they're not on like any kind of other like platform. They're just
Wait, you listen
dedicated.
to true crime?
Well, yeah, of course. I of course I listen to
Here
true
we go.
crime.
And here I was thinking that watching accidents on YouTube was a bad thing, and I was saying the other
What?
podcast. I was saying, oh, it's even my guilty pleasure is even worse than Andrew. You listen to true crime? That's even worse than accidents, car crashes. I mean,
True crime is like the lowest of the spectrum of what I engage with. I am like when it comes to people dying, I've watched it all. Like that's my whole field. I've like serial killers all the way to just like I don't know what you'd call them, monsters. I've been there. I watched it all.
because the serial killers are not. I like the implication.
Well, there's like it's like you learn very quickly that like serial killers are like they're insane, very bad people, but there's somebody who lives above them, like a what is it, like a Cthulhu level, where you're like, oh god, there's like an unknowable, unspeakable beast that's even worse somehow than the worst that we could possibly comprehend as a person, and you're like, oh good, those are just hanging around in the shadows for some reason. Awesome. And that's definitely why Live Leak doesn't exist anymore, because those people are not great.
Teetering
But true crime's
dangerously
fun.
close to the abyss that is Andrew's soul.
Yeah,
Let's-
but yeah,
let's-
true crime is really fun because you get to see. It's kind of like cooking shows where you get to see a wide range of how. What are you laughing about? It's true. It's true. Like,
Well,
look,
if
true
it's
crime.
Hannibal
like
Lecter,
cooking-
it is.
It's like
it is
cooking
like a
shows
cooking
where
show.
two really flamboyant and colorful people are weirdly tone deaf about the thing they're presenting, from what I've
Yeah.
seen in modern true crime.
Yeah, exactly. And so, but you also have people who take it really, really maturely and seriously. Like I follow a person who does a really good job of laying all the facts. He doesn't dox people because that's for some reason a problem with true crime. They'll just say like outright say victims or whatever's like full names or where they live and stuff, and it's like they're still alive. Like maybe don't do that. There's like, and I've seen people like a guy I follow is really good about it. He like he gives you all the stuff heads up, like this is what's in the episode, like this is what we're going to be talking about, this is where the location is, these are the people involved. He gives backstories to both the perpetrator and the victim, so you're not just, it's not like just a weird like and then the bad guy showed up. You're like, nah, this is a person, this is what happened to make a person do this. Like these are human beings committing crimes with human beings. Like they're not just weird, like spectral boogeymen who just crawl out of the ground and start committing crimes. But yeah, then you have like the fun ones where they show up and like, hey, party time, someone got 13 killed, and they like blow up confetti and like doing disco dances and whatnot, and they're like, he stabbed her in the heart, and you're like, man, this is a weird way to produce information about murder, but all right, let's go. Like and it's
I've
kind of like
definitely
cooking
seen
shows.
like banners and stuff that look like YouTube thumbnails that are hyper colorful and like mugging for the camera, where it looks like they're going to open toy boxes or something, but it's like and it's like 17 dead. I'm like, what the fuck?
Yeah.
Jesus Christ.
Those are
I've never
great. I
seen
love
these.
those.
I don't know what the
I've
fuck is
never-
wrong
Yeah, like,
with true
so-
crime. All I did was listen to season 1 and 2 of
Like-
Serial, and that was it. That was all of true crime podcasts for me.
They're like it's a really fun field. There's a lot like such a huge spectrum of how people deliver such horrifying news. And it can be a really good insight into just how, what's the word, like how numb people can be to this thing. Like the concept of serial killers isn't like old. It sounds like it would be old. Like I'm sure
We just live in
concept
a
of
world where we're
murdering.
just given bad news every day.
Yeah, but like, so the concept of serial killing isn't new. Obviously, people killed each other, and I would argue that people killed each other in pretty huge groves the further you keep going back. But the concept, like the general, like the general premise of serial killing is a more modern concept than you would
Also a very
you
American
would
concept. You would
well,
be,
yeah, we invented serial killers. Like that was us. We did it. Good job, guys. Who saved the day. Yeah, that we were technically the ones who like pointed out and went, "Hey, wait a second. What is that guy doing over there?" And it's fun.
Killing?
It was really fun to learn about serial killing like as a concept, because it's such a it goes from like a pseudoscience to like a national problem really quickly, where you're like, I don't know, man. I don't think people just kill each other indiscriminately. That sounds crazy. And you're like, oh shit, a lot of people are doing this. This is a kind of a problem. We should focus on this. Like, poor FBI just shows up and is like suddenly in the thralls of being expected to solve what was once like, let's not talk about this small city crime. And now it's like, well, we can't really overlook the fact that a guy, like, is killing a lot of people in a lot of short time period, and he kind of is doing it pretty what's the word, consistently. Yeah, he's doing it pretty consistently, even though we try to tell him to stop publicly. Hey, stop that, dude.
Well,
I don't know.
Speaking of true crime podcasts,
finally,
Max Damage's prompt was, "You walk outside and see the sky is no longer blue." I remember thinking, it's already been 10 minutes. We've already wasted 10 minutes. I've got to start. 50 minutes? How the fuck? All right. Cassidy rubbed furiously at his arms as he walked, not because the young man was cold, but because the small western town he'd grown up in now repulsed him. He strode among the houses with rigid shoulders, glancing wide-eyed between them as if he expected they'd move after 2 decades of waiting patiently. Fuck it. He couldn't stay here tonight. Cassidy couldn't bear to hold these streets in his life for a moment longer than he had to. He'd go home, gather anything worth carrying, and never look back. The young man would figure out the rest as he went, but he would never return. There was nothing left for him here. As he turned the corner onto his home street, he backpedaled in shock so clumsily that he slid to the ground. Shit! Choking on his own dust cloud, he scrambled to crawl back behind cover. Back pressed to the wall, ice in his veins, he strained to hear whether he'd been seen over the music of his own heart in his ears. Laird. That crooked son of a bitch was waiting for Cassidy at his own home, and he brought his boys. Never figured the grunt for a killer, honestly. Yeah, suppose that's how he thinks he got away with it, dimwit. Oh, come on, you think he'd come back after a show like that? Oh, he'll be back, just you wait. That was it. Cassidy's decision had been made for him, whether he had truly meant it before or not. He ran his fingers through his hair, which trembled as the weight of the situation really hit him. Laird was on the hunt, and the boy had to make tracks right now or find his neck wrung on a lead wrought of false justice. He rose, resigned his final goodbyes to anything material he had left to care about, and launched himself in the opposite direction. Cassidy stopped for no one. He felt many a questioning stare on his back, even heard a shout or two, but he just kept running. Buildings slid by like great lumbering beasts. He didn't bother looking up to check where he was going anymore. The town had to end eventually, had to be humbled by the world beyond, and that was all that mattered anymore. Human sprawl seemed to go on forever, but then it ended all at once, surrendering to nature's grand expanse. Cassidy still didn't have a plan, but he had to keep moving. He wouldn't let anyone drag him back in there. Checking the afternoon sun, the choice was obvious. It would break his heart to watch the burning harbinger fall. And so he set his back to it, running east. With the star burning at his neck, he had more reason than ever never to turn back. As much as he wished it wouldn't, his mind drifted back to when his world shattered. Flashback. Squinting through the midday sun, Cassidy struggled to see anything in the abyss beyond the barred window. "Tom!" He shouted his whisper. "Are you in there? You shouldn't be here." The big man's voice felt smaller somehow, both familiar and new. It hurt to hear. "And where else would I be? You and I both know you didn't do it. They say you were the last one seen with her, but we were together the whole time. Let me just talk to the sheriff and we can set this whole mess straight." "Don't you dare." Tom was trying to build himself up. to make his words stern and final, but there was a quiver to them. Do you have any idea what that would do to me, to my family? You're not saying a goddamn word to anyone. Your family? Tom, they're gonna hang you at sundown, and you're gonna walk away. What? He couldn't accept what he was hearing. You not hear me? Sundown, Tom. You're not spending the night in here. They're gonna string you up like they're in a hurry or something. The man bristled at needing to repeat himself. I heard fine. Cassidy's voice cracked at this. Tom, this is wrong. You can't make me do this. You don't know what it'll do to me. You say one goddamn word and I will never forgive you. I'll have nothing left. You'd have me. Cassidy slid his arm through the bars, vision blurred by welling tears. His hand stretched for Tom, reaching to move the man, shake him from his fate, to hold his oldest friend. The cowboy only turned away in silence. Back to modern day. Cassidy's chest heaved, his breath long since turned sharp as his lungs stiffened. He felt like he'd been running for hours, his legs chafed in his pants. His neck burned red, and he didn't care to see what state his boots had left his feet in. Nothing mattered but distance. He had no water, no destination, but he'd sooner die out here than set foot in that town again. He yelped as his ankle wrenched awfully, and the desert rose eagerly to meet him, slamming into his face. He lay there a moment, fingers dragging through the dirt until they balled into fists, struggling not to fall apart. Cassidy stood slowly, testing his leg. He hissed through clenched teeth as the damage throbbed against his weight. His chances just got a whole lot slimmer. The boy hobbled for what felt like another hour, his progress reduced to an agonizing crawl. He fully expected some opportunistic wildlife to take a liking to him, but instead was soon drawn to the ghost of a noise. It was nearly imperceptible at first, but the clamor rose as he pushed on. He tried not to notice how long his shadow was getting. Always in front of him, it was getting harder and harder to miss. Finally cresting over an unfamiliar path, the horizon filled with water. A wide river at last answering his ear's attraction. Cassidy collapsed beside it, unsure if it was safe to drink, but more than relieved at the chance to cool his face. The surface calmed to unveil his own reflection, and when he stared down at his own imitation, something finally broke. Sobbing horribly with the cry of a wounded animal, Cassidy's tears returned what he stole. And how am I ever supposed to forgive you? Flashback. Tom blinked as his vision adjusted from the early morning light to the shaded interior of his favorite establishment. The familiar place, however, was not manned by the familiar face. You got the saloon today, Rose? He scanned around, the regular host nowhere to be seen. In fact, the whole place was suspiciously empty. Evie not make it or something? I haven't got a clue. Y'all stay up late last night, run my girl ragged? We... Tom cleared his throat when it caught. Cassidy took over. Tom was soaked through, so I had to drag his dumb ass home early. Rose cocked an eyebrow at that as he served them the usual. Big Tom went under the table? Y'all must have been hitting the hard stuff without me. They hadn't. You'll be liable to make a girl feel left out. Tom gulped down his early drink, clearly not comfortable with their lie. Well, we'll be sure you get the full show next time, Rose. The three enjoyed their late morning silence for a few minutes until it shattered with the slam of the front door. There he is, that son of a bitch. Laird bellowed the alarm as bodies flowed past him into the room. For a moment, Tom was lost in a sea of hands as they punched and grappled with him, one man against an overwhelming tide. You'll get what's coming for you for what you did to poor Evie. Her own parents couldn't recognize her. Mouth agape, Cassidy could only shake his head slowly in shock as he watched. Tom slammed into the door frame, winded on the impact. Creatures that Cassidy no longer recognized tore at the man's clothes, hauling him away. The expression on Tom's face shook the young man to his core. It was the first time he'd seen him afraid. Modern day. I say modern day, it's the same day. Later that day. Now. Feeling thoroughly defeated and lost in the memory, Cassidy was only shaken from his stupor when a cold shadow eclipsed his spot on the shoreline. Whirling from where he kneeled, revealed an entire stagecoach that had managed to sneak up on him while he was numb to the world. With a pang, he wished he had failed to notice the sun had fallen low enough to be blocked by the vehicle. The door swung open. "I wouldn't drink that if I were you, boy." The older man stared back at him, soft and well-kept. He looked as if he'd never struggled a day in his life. "What in the blazes are you doing all the way out here without a horse? You run into some kind of trouble?" "Yeah, something like that." "Well, get in already. I've got a schedule to keep, but we can drop you in the next town." He gestured wildly, seemingly annoyed that Cassidy had not anticipated his hospitality. Standing carefully on his swelling ankle, he glanced at the horse's bearing. They weren't heading back towards the goddamn sun, so wherever he ended up would have to be good enough. Flashback. You ever wonder if we'd be better off back east? Evie was getting all wistful again. She always did that when she was drunk. Cassidy blinked at the question. "What, paved roads and shit?" Her scarlet curls bounced as she laughed. It was the kind of noise you could only steal with a surprise. "Yeah, I suppose. Paved roads and shit. Reckon it's a lot harder to clean horse leavings out of the cobble or brick or whatever than it is to clear out of dirt." He was really out of clever things to say this many drinks in. "Sure, I'm not exactly looking to do that no matter where I'm living." Evie performatively cleaning out a glass to prove her point. "Nah, you're too good to sweep streets. I'm sure you've got a foolproof plan to land yourself in pocket watches and petticoats." Cassidy only said that because it felt good on the tongue. He had no idea what a petticoat was. "And what exactly do you think a petticoat is, Cassidy? Damn it." "Oh, what do you know?" He slapped Tom on the back, whose face rose from the bar with a bleary grunt. "Looks like it's past my boy's bedtime. We'd best be getting on." "You boys done already? It can't be an hour past sundown yet." Her mock dejectedness was infectious. "We got the whole place to ourselves, and you're going to cut out early." Cassidy slid in under Tom's arm and grunted as he strained to lift him. "And yet you've already served us enough to tranquilize this bear here. I've got to get him out of here before you somehow make him heavier." "All right, y'all take care now." Progress towards the door quickly proved difficult work. Whoa, you're going to have to help me out here, big guy. This is like trying to carry a horse over a river." Tom's response was unintelligible. Cassidy sobered up a bit when the door opened to reveal a face twisted in awful glare. "Evening, Laird." The pair lumbered clumsily past the man, both eager to be rid of him. "Asshole." The boy said it under his breath, but when he looked back over the expanse between them, he saw Laird still staring at them. Cassidy shivered, but not from the cold. Shit, he couldn't know, could he? They were always so careful. Afraid to look again, he trudged on. Tom mercifully regained some clarity as they walked, slowly removing his weight from the smaller man. He was walking on his own by the time they reached his porch. "You got it from here, Tom? I can head..." "Oh!" A strong arm herded Cassidy inside. He always hoped an evening would end like this, but he never knew when it was coming. Calloused hands fumbled at his clothes as they'd done many times before, and he tried to push from his mind the worry that Tom would only do this when he was proper drunk. Falling onto the mattress, their limbs entangled in a mess of ragged gasps as they sweated through the sheets. Back to now. "End of the road, boy." The old man shuffled to open the way out of the stagecoach. "Thank you, sir. I wish I had a way to pay. You cost me nothing, and you owe me nothing, but hurry along. I have to be on my way." Steeling himself with nothing more than a weary sigh, Cassidy stepped into the light. He found that he didn't need to shield his eyes from the glare of the outside world. The sky was no longer blue. That's it.
You
Wow.
left us.
That one
Good
kept
job.
busy for a while.
Yeah. That was good. I like the oh man, that you did good with the like all the details and how it lends to the fact that you're narrating, so it's difficult to it's more difficult than just reading. But there's a lot of details going on, and you always hover over what eventually is the reveal almost at the end as well. Because you're like, what did they do? What did they do? What's going on?
Yeah,
Right?
definitely.
Was that the
I
intention?
definitely like structured the entire thing in reverse order. Or I when I figured out the timeline, I definitely started at the ending and wrote backwards, and then I split it into. I've been dealing with some fiction lately that I might actually end up writing about later as video essays or whatever. But like, I've been really interested in the unveiling of information and how that can make a story compelling in a way that Final Fantasy XIV's A Realm Reborn or Kingdoms of Amalur do not, because they just are like, I will now sit down and explain the story to you, and I'm like, that's not what makes a story compelling. Like,
Yeah.
like fucking I went through a visual novel that had like shockingly good information revealing, and I'm like, what the fuck? Everything should work this way. Or like how the first serialized Witcher book, not the short story ones, but the beginning of the Witcher saga, it opens with Dandelion, a side character, spurning an audience to debate whether or not his stories are real, and I'm like, that's a fucking incredible opening. So I was like really fixated on like, how do you unveil information in a way that raises questions instead of just fucking telling a story in the most logical way, which is the worst way usually. But it was a headache to format. I'll put all of our stories in the description somewhere or something, so you can actually read them, because the narration is messy.
I wish you had. I wish I wish you had dwelled a little bit more. Like, your pacing is really good. I think better at the beginning than later on. You start to hover, going up and down a little in terms of the pacing, but the pacing of the what you're telling is very good at, like, easily for the first half. And I wish the basically when Tom pulls Cassidy to, I suppose, like a house or an alleyway, I wish you had dwelled a little bit more and slowed down and described a few more things, because that's the payoff. Like, that's that's where like, that's the reveal. So you could, I suppose, if I had to criticize.
I was focusing on the reveal more so than like, let's turn this into a romance novel.
But it's also a memory, right? Like, he's recalling things, so it makes sense for him to just dwell there.
But they arrived at Tom's house because they specifically arrive at his porch. It's so much messier to try to narrate it and then have everyone retain that way.
Yeah.
So I'll put the text somewhere.
Gotta just make like a paste bin or something for it, and then just slap it into the
drive folder or something.
Yeah. What's it called? Yeah, I like that the premise, that the general topic is not the leading in for the story. Like, you save it to the very end. That's always fun. So, like, it's not the focus. Like, people aren't focused on the premise. It's just the story.
Did the final line land? Like, did you understand what it meant?
Yeah, no, I got exactly why you saved it to the end. I just meant that it's nice that, like, like you were talking about earlier. Because that was my worry, is that I would say the sky is no longer blue, and then it just ends, and I'm like, what the fuck does that mean? What do you mean it's over?
Well, the world isn't the same. I assume the setting is like frontier times, like 1800s. So, like, Cassidy is outed at the moment, and he's in a different town. So, like, there's multiple interpretations, I suppose, that you could take. That he's away from Tom. Actually, what happened to Tom? Did you describe that?
It's exactly what I was worried about. No.
He got taken, right? He just got taken.
It might be easier to follow in text form.
Yeah.
But no, the character Evie, after they so Tom was jailed for the murder of Evie and was going to be hung that night. It was going to be hung at sundown, right, which I added more reminders to earlier on, because I'm like, this isn't like set up enough time. So I added more mentions to it, where they doubled back in the conversation to try to reinforce it. So the reason why there's such an obsession over the sun throughout the entire story is not just a place where the flashback versus modern day stuff is, because all the flashbacks are in chronological order themselves. But I'm sorry, the the modern day scenes are in chronological order, and all of the flashbacks are in reverse chronological order. So the first flashback is the most recent before he went home and then ran away, and then each one gets further and further back, revealing more and more that like, oh shit, okay, so here's Tom in jail, here's Tom being taken, here's them hanging out with Evie the night before, which they said in the other scene was the last time. They claim that Tom was the last one that saw her, and that was when they previously saw them. Laird was hunting Laird was hunting Cassidy at his home at the beginning of the story, and you realize that that Laird was the last person that saw Evie because he was going into the bar as they left. And so Tom was hung at sundown. That's the point of the sky no longer being blue, is the reason why he's running from the sun and refusing to look at it and afraid of his growing shadow, and why it's so significant that the sky is no longer blue is that it's sundown. So all of the modern day scenes are the last of the day dwindling away, at which point Tom is executed.
Oh, I see. And that explains why you were saying that
struggle to format.
Yeah. I like that's what I was going to say, is I like the idea that you talked about earlier, that you foregoed all of the obvious answers here, like apocalypse and some kind of end of the world type problem with the sky turning a different color than blue. Yeah, but the idea that that just because the sky is no longer blue doesn't necessarily mean that the sky that there is something wrong on a global scale. Like like the sky does change colors
every day.
Yeah, it's not always blue. It can change to various colors. So yeah, using it as a signifier of a time of day change was really good. That was really that's a really fun ending, to be like, the day is over.
Would it work if the flashbacks were in chronological order?
Like if you told the story without flashbacks?
No, just, because my problem was like I couldn't identify that they were in chronological order while I was listening to them. Like I only got that. I knew that they weren't necessarily in the right order, but like what's going on at what time was difficult for me to follow. So I think if they were in chronological order, I think there are some things that would have had to change.
Makes me think you have to write differently for narration, essentially.
I was going to say
every single scene explains when it's taking place.
I was going to say, reading through it right now,
you have to catch all of them.
It's understandably structured. You would know that you're in a flashback, and you know when the flashback's taking place. But I think verbally hearing it out loud, it's a little bit harder to like keep your bearings. And I think that's that makes sense. I think that's a very big. I would say that's a pretty good literary hurdle in general.
That's why once I wrote it, I was really worried. I'm like, oh fuck, this isn't gonna work when I read it. But yeah, the jail scene starts with squinting through the midday sun, and then the scene where Tom is taken. It says Tom blinked as his vision adjusted from the early morning light to the shaded interior of his favorite establishment.
And then you reinforce that after a little bit, saying the last things of the morning. His early drink.
Most flashbacks start with a time of day.
And then the conversation with Evie is them the night before, because it says that it's like an hour after sundown. You're slowly going backwards in time. Also, Evie's alive, so it's earlier than the scene where she's dead.
That does help. Yeah,
just like how that Tom is being seized is before the time that he was in jail. But it's a lot to just process on the fly. Why someone would just write a chronological story if they were going to read it out loud.
In the way I'm conceptualizing my own story, I'm very aware that I'm going to have to read it out loud, and I'm seeing things that from the beginning I'm seeing things that just don't work, and because I like to play around. I like the stuff that I write. When I write, it is meant to be read and rather than spoken, and I'm not used to writing for speech. It's very different. I think you started out with I could tell at the beginning that you were using more florally structured sentences at the beginning. There were a couple that were really nice. That I was like, oh, that's really beautiful. About the boots, there was one with the boots that was that's great. That's a great line. But then later on, you stop doing that as much, and I wonder why. Was it just because you wanted to focus on the action?
I mean, there's it's hard to break up the dialogue. Whenever there's dialogue, it's hard to like keep pausing for big stuff, though. But what is it? I lost it.
I don't remember the name.
Oh yeah, Cassidy's chest heaved, his breath long since turned sharp as his lungs stiffened, and then later it's his neck burned red and he didn't care to see what state his boots had left his feet in.
Yeah, that one was like, you could just like slap me twice. And I didn't even see it coming. Because it's got like a setup and a kicker. It's like a whole thing.
I was all full of myself when I wrote that his Cassidy's tears returned what they stole.
I didn't get that one.
I was so fucking full of myself.
I didn't get that
that's
one.
That's fine.
Because he splashed water on his face, and then he cried back into the river.
Oh yeah, I did get.
Yeah.
I forgot what it meant. In the moment I understood what it meant.
I think you're
It
allowed
is
to
a
be-
fun exercise.
Yeah, it's always
Yeah.
it is a lot of fun to have to flex your creative muscles sometimes.
Trying to run the tightrope between like phrasing things creatively and trying to make it compelling, but also not being Wildermyth, where you're like, what the fuck did he say? Like so much of
Yeah.
the Wildermyth narration, you're like, Douglas, what are you doing? What the fuck was that sentence?
I think you had only one half constructed sentence in the whole thing. Right at the end, there was somebody. Oh yeah, Tom cleared his throat when it caught. That's the only sentence that you didn't finish.
Mm-hmm.
And Wildermyth just doesn't finish sentence.
Because that's the point of that sentence.
Yeah. Like that's the thing. Like I think
that Wildermyth's fucking weird.
it is, because I think it's meant to an easy trap to fall into. I noticed this the very first story I tried to write after figuring that I couldn't write dialogue for shit, which is what happens to everyone that starts writing, because it's practice. It's not just liking dialogue. So the moment I figured that I couldn't write dialogue, what I did is, how would people talk? And then I tried talking myself, and guess what? I'm stuttering all the time. Oh, that's how people talk then. And I write down people stuttering. No, that's not how people talk. Like, I'm not stuttering right now. I'm saying stuff. But if I'm like making stuff up at the same time as I'm saying things, then yeah, I stutter. That's how you spot people lying. I mean, one way anyway.
Mm-hmm.
So it just comes across as people lying. Wildermyth, I mean. Why did you choose the name Laird? What is that?
I literally looked up a list of old Western names and just went, God damn, I literally just got a cough drop and it's not helping. But they're like different Western names. I was following my own rule of not repeating the first letter in anyone's names.
Mm-hmm.
And just name Laird is a really, I'm so sorry, anyone in the audience, but Laird is a really douchey name.
Yeah.
It's
But
like
Cassidy was just the first name that came to mind when I thought of that setting.
Yeah. I like the names. They're memorable. Well, Tom is kind of not necessarily the most imaginative name.
Yeah. It was Cassidy,
But-
Tom, Laird, Evie, and Rose.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, Rose also. Yeah, it sticks. I think the big challenge though is Laird specifically. His name needs to. There's a big span between him being introduced and then later on. I think that's the biggest span of all the names. So it's a memorable enough name for that. You would remember. Oh, it's that weird name that I've never heard.
I think Laird is the name of. Let's see. Laird.
Wikipedia, people
Gears
named
of
Laird.
War.
Are you sure it's pronounced like that as well? By
Is
the
there
way,
a guy named Laird in Gears of War?
it's one of the
I'm
main.
thinking of Baird, aren't I?
Yeah.
Oh no, that's
Yeah.
weird.
The smart guy, the smart, insufferable guy in the Gears of War series named Baird.
Laird,
So,
give her
so
name.
if Baird is pronounced Baird, then Laird is probably Laird.
Yeah, fair enough.
Yeah, I'm not like in any authority to question. I
Yep.
have no idea.
The Google pronounced Laird supports Laird.
On Wikipedia for Laird, open parentheses, given name, close parentheses, the youngest person there is an American author and poet called Laird Barron, which is actually, that sounds good. Laird Barron, that's a good name.
A villain
I like
name.
that.
Laird
Let me
Bear.
see. Let me look into what he does. Oh, he's from Alaska. Right. That explains it.
What?
You know the name. Because isn't Alaska
What?
like a really old-timey kind of place?
I don't know anything about Alaska besides.
I don't think so. I
bad
think it's
things.
just I think it's just an empty place. I think just a lot of people struggle to live
There's
there.
people in Alaska.
Barely. The majority of Alaska is much like Canada, is not lived in. There's just like a small pocket of Alaska that has people in it, and the rest is this unbearably mean wildlands that just kind of exists, I guess.
And
I mean,
there's
we're winning the
trains through
fight.
the woods.
We're killing the planet enough that we'll wipe that stupid ecosystem out eventually, but it's still there, taunting us every day. Whereas, yeah, I think I think there's like a
Wh-
thing.
The other thing is, like I mentioned, that there's a lot of details that you put in, even though the story is sort of focused on one particular thing. Like one of the details was the desert. The moment you mentioned the desert, like it starts, the picture gets better in my head, and a lot of the descriptions do the same, because at the beginning I'm like, oh, this is suburban America. He's just in a street, like on a bicycle or on a motor bicycle or something. But no, it's old timey.
My least creative description probably is when I just straight up say in the first sentence, small western town. Because I was like, I gotta establish something, but also not just sit here and talk about the setting for a paragraph.
No, but that's good though, because well, at least I like the effect, because it keeps the reader sort of, you know, it doesn't center the reader easily enough, and so you can have a simpler story that is still interesting because you're not sure where you're headed, so you're paying attention to all these loose plots of whether, you know, the town is east and town. Like there's this moment where he turns back around and I'm like, why did you mention his heading? And it turns out it's because of the water thing, right?
He's turning away from the sun.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, that's the whole dynamic of the
It
storytelling.
would break his heart to watch that burning harbinger fall.
I didn't get that line.
The sun.
The when the sun sets, Tom gets executed.
The harbinger of Tom's
The sun
execution.
is
That's why.
yeah,
It's like, yeah.
As the sun sets, it just, and he can't stop
says-
it. It just gets closer.
Yeah, checking
Mhm.
the afternoon sun, the choice was obvious. It would break his heart to watch that burning harbinger fall. So he set his back to it, running east.
Mm-hmm.
Because the sun sets in the west.
Unless.
No. No. There's no exceptions to that. Something's very wrong if that doesn't happen.
There's books
This
written
isn't
about
like
that stuff.
this isn't like toilets flush the other way. It's like, nope, still west in Australia.
The funny thing about the toilets is that it's true, but it's also false. Did you know?
Sure.
What?
Toilet. So basically, the biggest modifier, not toilets, just any sink or any like drain, the biggest modifier for whether it's counterclockwise or clockwise, how the water goes down the drain, isn't actually the rotation of the planet, even though it is a factor. The biggest modifier is just the shape of the drain. So like you can have two toilets on side by side, and one of them goes left and the other one goes right, because of the way they're like the imperfections of how the water goes. That's the biggest modifier. So you need like a extremely controlled environment to even be able to tell, and it's possible to tell. Yes, they do tend to go one the other way. And that's why the
guess I
sun
just-
sets in the east.
guess I just
Mhm.
never knew
Isn't it-
that.
The song I was thinking of is, I know it's Californication, right? There's a line about
Red
that.
Hot Chili Peppers.
Yeah. There's a line something about the sun setting in the east or something. That song is good. Fight me.
Is that the Californication?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know anything else, so all I remember is that line, that one word.
The sun may rise in the east. Oh no, it's the other way around. Dang it.
That
Okay, it's confirmed.
was a dangerous bet you made, and you lost.
I did.
Oh,
It doesn't feel as bad as having forgotten my homework, though.
well. Don't
Do we
feel
wanna
bad
read
because you've been given an extended time to do it.
I was gonna ask, do we want to read it next week,
Or
or
a
is it
homework
Andrew's?
extension.
Or is it
I
Andrew's
don't know.
next
Do we
week?
podcast or do we Andrew? I don't know. I don't have things figured out.
Do you want two
All I
stories
know is that
in one
I don't have to do
podcast?
it anymore. I win.
You did. You did win.
Yeah, I'm fine with doing my story this week if you want.
Sure.
Mhm.
Probably. How do I increase?
Should
the
probably have it
size?
up
There
so I
we
can
go.
read it.
Mm-hmm.
No,
Oh, if you could-
it's
Actually, this you could link it to us as well, so we can read along. Because people
Yeah.
are going to be watching and doing that, unless they're not doing that.
if you would like that, give me a moment.
Sorry that I didn't think of that, Keith, before you started reading.
One moment. Up, and then because it's important. I love Word. Let's see. 'Cause
Oh
I
no, he
need to-
uses Word.
Yeah, I. Why wouldn't I use Word? Is Word not good? When did that
No.
happen? Isn't Word
Every
like
time.
the default?
LibreOffice for the win or death. Actually,
Office
there's much better ones, but
There's LibreOffice.
You use OpenOffice?
Yeah.
Oh, LibreOffice is a fork.
Oh, it's just the same open source. It's like OBS
Mm-hmm.
Streamlabs.
Oh no, it's the other way around actually. It's kind of weird.
Well, Libre was first.
No, Libre was second, but it's with the original developers because they split up. It's weird. It's like this whole thing, drama from nerds. Thank you, nerds, for making the best.
Nerd drama.
They're not listening. They're not.
They're always
listening, so it's-
angry about something. What is it this week?
Why? What is these squiggly lines, by the way, Keith?
I literally looked up like ASCII wind.
ASCII.
I wanted more than just a larger line break to show the time skips. So I did a little ASCII wind thing that's just like a
Yeah,
squiggle.
I figured. I didn't know they were wind. I just figured that they were like line breaks to.
Yeah, it's just a stylization.
They look like the sound of flashbacks that Andrew has. Basically.
Exactly. But unfortunately, mine does not have flashbacks in it, so I won't get to use my flashback soundboard. Okay. Let's see. Finishing.
You'll have to settle
exporting
for
that now. Yeah, exactly. Which one? You want the Roblox or Minecraft?
What? Oh, is that from Roblox? Sounds like a kid being shoved.
That's
Oh, the- ooh.
Roblox. That's Minecraft.
I like the
I
Minecraft
thought
better.
that was older than that. I didn't know it was from Roblox.
Yeah. Let's see. Okay, so where did I toss this shit to?
I need to get one of those things for
Did
me.
you lose your story?
No, I didn't lose it. I just
He's
exported it.
exporting
And I
it.
was trying to figure out where it exported to because my documents folder is big, huge, even. Okay.
So, Keith,
And
does the
export? There
you go.
motorcycle man have a name?
Do they what?
The motorcycle that just passed outside your door.
They're all douchebags. That's just every motorcycle.
Oh, it's
owner's a bad
multiple
person.
people.
Of course, yeah. No,
Oh crap.
that's not like my neighbor. That's a street. That's just I can go fuck myself.
Well, you're in America.
Holy shit! Andrew didn't do paragraphs.
It's
Yeah, I did.
everyone is your neighbor.
Oh,
the
did it
thing-
not come out? It did not come out as paragraphs in the
The thing you gave
export?
us either doesn't have paragraphs or it doesn't have tabs or something.
Oh, okay.
Maybe-
But
maybe
that's
whatever
because
you
it's
have
Word.
does suck.
He's using Word, and then bad
No,
things
it's
happen.
it's because I tried making the text bigger. That I
Don't
think
worry, we
that
can read
muddled
along. We
it.
can figure this out.
You made the
We can figure
paragraph
this out.
infinite.
Yeah,
We can figure it out later.
If you don't mind, let's see.
I don't mind.
If
I
you-
don't know if Keith.
If you don't mind smaller font but actual paragraphs, then you
I'm
can.
already
We have
reading the first
Zoom.
line in the Cave Johnson voice.
We can zoom in.
There you go. There's both of them.
There you go.
Okay, so let me.
So what was your prompt, Andrew?
My
Alright.
prompt.
He said,
Shit. I should have probably put that on the thing, huh? My prompt was a plagiarist has a midlife crisis and wants to make something original.
That was posted by Matt the Scraphead.
Very original name, unlike my character. Okay, so let's begin. We have nothing to fear but fear itself, is a quote by a very famous man. That man being me, Colt Weather. Unfortunately, I have discovered there are two fears, fear itself and creativity. You see, I'm something of an artist. I can paint beautiful works of art, tell timeless literary stories, and play soul-touching music. The one thing I could not do, however, is create something original. For the past 3 decades, I have been working hard to keep up the illusion of genius, convincing countless of my seemingly boundless talents. All the while, without anyone aware, I have been merely stealing from creative geniuses that came before me. At first, it was a simple sleight of hand. Copy the brush strokes of Da Vinci, lift a riff or two from a piece of Mozart, reword a few lines from a Shakespeare play. I would always steal the base work from a random no-name artist, but trace over it with the work of an unrelated master of the craft. This was a great way to fly under the radar of would-be scrupulous eyes. As the notoriety began, the level of quality needed to rise, along with the charisma to keep it up. Once more people began to really look at my work, they noticed the inspiration. That is where the use of my true skill came in, deception. At large, the public often wants to see failure compared to success. Failure makes them feel less insignificant about their own lack of accomplishment. So why not spin that cowardly desire onto the very geniuses I was stealing from? I began a disinformation campaign to discredit the world's greatest artist while continuing to steal from them. A slight jab here, a crass comment there, no artist was safe. Eventually, it got to the point where some people were questioning if geniuses of the past somehow had tapped into latent ability to see the future and were merely borrowing my success in the past. Bless the limitless imagination of those without critical thinking. Conspiracies aside, the hardest part of any con is the deception, and while it was my greatest skill, it was also the most exhausting. I could create intricate knockoffs until my arms fell off, but just a single interview on national television felt like I hadn't slept in weeks. It got to the point where it became easier to debut new art at these interviews just to take as much pressure off my necessity to keep my story straight as possible. Eventually, this resulted in a unique competitive cycle between me and other artists for who could put on the greatest debut display during an interview. Just like that, the expectation for answering questions ended and replaced with nothing more than an overproduced ribbon-cutting ceremony. Of course, the networks ate it up. I had every talk show host calling to get first dibs on my newest debut as soon as they heard I finished a piece. This wild media circus really helped, as with everyone creating their own spectacles, even if they were as good as me, they still took away the attention, meaning my work wouldn't be focused on long enough to be found out as a forgery. Attention spans are only getting shorter, so without any long-winded verbal story to give your brain time to sit and really focus on the art, you're left with someone shooting fireworks off in front of you every time you even try to look at something beyond the initial hype. Sure, there would be plenty who would call out how similar or even downright duplicated my work was. Thankfully, with an audience so loudly cheering me on, they practically drowned out the dissenters themselves without ever realizing it. The kind of outcome a politician spends countless thousands to replicate every election cycle. Speaking of other artists, they were almost as much a challenge as the interview questions. The key to tricking a master is not to discredit their knowledge, but to seek guidance from it. When an up-and-coming artist would eventually realize the grift, or at the very least know enough to tell something was wrong, I would be the first to ask them for guidance or to collaborate. You see, just because I was adept at stealing from the masters doesn't mean I had to act like one. Humility is worth its weight in gold if you can pull it off genuinely, and as I said before, people love to feel accomplished. Asking someone for their advice gives someone a rush akin to an orgasm, the feeling of being both above another in skill, but also being given the chance to push their own personal views onto another. Once someone has that feeling, all their doubts become hindrances towards that goal of self-gratifying pleasure. Who cares if they feel superior to you? What matters in a grift is not to be better than anyone, it is to simply ride off the grift until it is no longer possible. Which means the less obstacles, the better. In the world of art, no matter if you make music, paint, or social media dance videos, the most important key to success is luck. History has shown that it doesn't matter if you can paint like Van Gogh or play piano like Beethoven if no one will give you the time of day. So, having someone with a reasonably large audience that is begging for content to come along, having someone with a reasonably large audience that is begging for content to come along and asks you to work with them, well, who would say no? This especially goes double once they realize that calling you out after your collaboration will only tank their own reputation. It is like killing two birds with one stone. While I continue to keep up the grift, I also prop up my competition, so the focus isn't always pointed on me. Sometimes I truly believe I might be a genius. However, even with all my careful planning and cunning execution, one person continued to be a thorn in my side: Lavelle Lule. A true craftsman, able to write poetry with such finesse that you'd think she herself invented the art. She, however, was as talented at picking up on deception as she was with rhyming. Every time I would try to talk with her, she would immediately reply with, "Or so you want me to believe." It was both unnerving and irritating, her level of perception. Though that is on par for a master poet, able to see even the most minute details of the world and able to craft elegant stories around them. Admiration aside, she was a threat, not only to me, but to the world of art she seemed to passionately be enamored with. While it is hypocritical to hear this from myself, a living genius is often the worst possible one. When a person is held to such a regard while alive, their every action can sway both the public opinion and the competition. While she was busy building a castle, everyone else barely finished a shed, and that meant that the expectation for quality started to reach levels unreasonable for those without the means. Regretfully, or some might say ironically, this meant that as the only other genius poet in the world's eye, I was expected to be this woman's rival. This situation did not bode well for me. Given up until now, I had never been confronted with a genuine living genius on my plagiaristic conquest. My only hope was to find out her weakness and exploit it through the only medium she would interact with me on: poetry. Frustratingly, poetry isn't a clean art to fake. Structure, words, rhymes, even the damned category. All of it required such painstaking research to pull off properly. Yet this woman was able to turn out a masterpiece as if it were as natural as breathing. Truly a frightening thing to witness, and even worse to be on the receiving end of. Try as I might, I could never find a single master who wrote with the subject matter needed to best my rival. My poems always feelings too stiff or detached from the world in which I claimed to be living in. Meanwhile, like the rising of the sun, her words flowed seamlessly up until you felt a warm light wash over you. Like a feeling of nostalgia and ignorance blended into one. As you would imagine, this resulted in a complete and utter failure on my end. No matter how hard I tried, the difference in skill was always apparent. As time passed and my constant failures began to take the center stage, so too did her rhetoric. She knew I was a fraud, but she wasn't prideful about that knowledge either. She knew that in order to out me, she couldn't just shout from the bottom as so many others had tried before her. She had to be seen as above me, and my foolish attempt to prevent her rise only made her seem more accurate. Once she knew I could never reach her level again, she began to make it her mission to see me disappear. Every interview, every speech, even several of her cover inserts were solely dedicated to discrediting me and my legacy. I imagine even my most hated enemies began to pity my rival's seemingly unquenchable thirst for revenge. Finally, with so much pressure to maintain the lie, the eventual limit of possible geniuses to steal from, and the appearance of a formidable rival, it was time. I decided to retire from the spotlight as gracefully as I could, by releasing an entire poetry book where I plagiarized her favorite works as my own. I can tell you, I've never seen someone so composed act so enraged. It was almost cute, if not for the mind-boggling legal sum her lawyer was threatening me with if I didn't recall the book immediately. As I did, I so too recalled myself from the public eye. You'd think that after almost 3 decades of deceiving the world into believing I was a genius, some of that genius would have eventually rubbed off me, maybe even an inspiration or two to create my own work of art. Regretfully, this was never the case. In all my years, I never once created a piece that I could genuinely call my own. I slowly began to languish over this depressing fact, to think that all the time I spent lying, scheming, and plotting could have been used to genuinely master a craft I was so fond of pretending to be good at. I had access to all the resources I needed, all the money I could ask for, and networked with household names you would know today. And yet, I did not. I chose to simply continue stealing, continue lying, and most importantly, continue avoiding the very real fear of inadequacy that plagues us all. I remember some nights I would comb through hundreds of my works, interviews, anything, trying to find just a spark of originality. Nothing. An absolute masterful commitment to pure plagiarism could never be found elsewhere. I worried my entire legacy would eventually become that of simply a thief, someone who only took and never gave back, forgettable under the cover of the masters he stole from, once the last remaining believers of my grift were finally converted. I wondered what I could possibly do next. What could I possibly do with all the public spotlight I've casted myself into? Anything I make will be under heavy scrutiny by Lavelle's watchful eyes. That is when I finally got my first spark of inspiration. So, with that brief forward out of the way, please enjoy my first original piece of work, my entirely self-written autobiography. And to any looking to replicate my success, let this serve as a cautionary tale on how to avoid falling into the same traps.
It's a plot twist again.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
It's all the beginning of I was like, when is the work gonna happen? Like, he's supposed to make it work at some point. That's not plagiarism. And he's like, well, my career is over, and fuck it.
I really like that you wrote this from. Obviously, it works for the storytelling, but you wrote this as a first-person narrative. It adds this sort of surreal, sort of fever dream aspect to some of the claims that you're never really quite sure if he's actually saying. There's some stuff here that's just unbelievable. Things like, I was the only genius in the world, or something to that extent. And I'm just like, well, it's so good that it's the first person, because that lands every time. That was good.
Because it's his self-description.
Yeah, that's why I wanted to put in that was like the fun twist is that it is a self-written autobiography, which means there's no one here to call bullshit. He gets to just have his full reign over the history of it all. Which plays into his own thing of being a con artist, a plagiarist. He's just like, he just gets to keep that up. But by using his own piece of work, which I thought was just a fun premise.
It, funnily enough, reminded me of parts of Ender's Game, because like there's the whole parts that are from Ender's perspective, but there's like this B plot where like I think his like sister or something is like taking over all of social media and the world essentially, and creating a propaganda machine. And it's all like this kind of format of like just like, and here's the next thing I did in this next stage, and actually I defamed all of my critics and fucking I burned the world down.
I like that it's such a thorough. It's 2,000 words of a thorough exercise of building a character, even when you're describing other characters, and you just kept it Like, it makes me think that you had a very, very specific idea for who this person was.
Yeah, I was worried that like I didn't think I could keep up, or I could come up with a good world. Like if I had like even like the rival was a very short amount. Like I tried to keep it very quick and clean, just because it was hard to like try to split the focus for me. I'm not very, I don't know, like I couldn't think of anything like Keith's story having different characters and interacting in certain ways. Like even though it was from a first person perspective, there was still a lot more like interaction with other characters, and I was like nervous that the interactions might bring in too much like reality. I didn't want to leave the bubble of his own worldview, because like that,
because he's a narcissist.
Yeah, exactly. And so you don't want like other people in there, because then you start becoming like, I guess more you become less receptive to the world that he's trying to sell you, is when you hear other people talking in it. So I just, I don't know, I didn't want other people there communicating. But
let me
like,
also tell you that Lovell or Lavelle is another really weird name.
Yeah, so what I decided to do is I went online and I found a generator. I was like, give me a good French first name, and give me like, and then give me like a random surname. I think I chose like a random country too. I think it was like Bolivia or like Brazil or something like that. Like, what is a random surname from that country? And so just took those two and combined it to make a But
well, here am I looking up Latin words for what it means to do this, and my city is gonna be called this, and I mean,
name generators are very useful.
Yeah, I mean, and it is just a name. Like the names again aren't really necessarily important. Like Colt Weather, I don't know. It was just like the first name that came to my head. Is that his real name? Probably not. That sounds like an awful real name. I don't think anybody would name yourself that. But
Cold Weather.
His pen name, maybe.
Cold Weather.
Let me ask you something. Did you meet when you said, like, there's one particular place where you talk about other artists as your competition, and like there's an undertone to him beating everybody. There's in the whole thing, which is, I'm sure, very intentional. But specifically the competition, the word competition, did you choose that on purpose, or is that a throwaway? Is that just, how you chose to describe that? The word competition, I mean.
I meant it like intentionally. Like the idea here is that he's not he genuinely thinks that art is a fake it till you make it kind of thing. So to a degree, other artists are also, they're not plagiarists, but they are also just trying to do the same thing he is. They're trying to gain enough visibility and notoriety to rise their station.
He only sees it as like the grift and not as like art to begin with.
Yeah, exactly. So like he's not looking at it as like because obviously, like, I don't think Beethoven and Mozart would consider each other competition. I think they would consider each other like what do you call it? Like, not equals, but you know what I mean? They're like colleagues. They're in the same field, but they're not competing with each other. They're making music. They're making different types of music too.
I don't think they were alive at the same time.
That was my first thought.
Well, like, that's true, but I meant like there are piano competitions, but I think that when you are a performer, when you are performing music, you're not competing with anybody in that performance. You're just putting on a show, and the goal is to just make a good show. Whether your show is better is, like a monetary relative thing, but like if you're an artist, your goal isn't to like, that's not your goal. Your goal is to create something that you like. You create something that you are happy with, and also create something that other people are happy with. The financial avenue is like is always just a weird, creepy societal problem that looms in the background. But yeah,
especially
I don't know.
If you're an artist.
Yeah,
that looms really heavy.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, so the idea is like, yeah, everyone else is in his eyes just trying to do the same thing he is, but not, well, as far as he knows, not stealing it. You know, he may be a plagiarist, but again, he knows nothing of art. He has no idea whether these people are also genuine or not.
It's interesting, like in real speaking in real life terms, for people starting out making art, and especially in more and trendier might not be the word, but let's go with that for the moment. In trendier genres or mediums like music or acting, I get the impression that people starting out have a lot less capacity to, unless they start out already with the mentality of I'm just gonna copy from other people and live my life like that. There's definitely people doing that, and it's a way to be successful, for sure. But I think people who start out for the love of the medium, and I say that from the perspective of musicians, people take a little while to actually get to the point where they're like, oh, I'm actually not original. Like, none of what I'm doing right now, I've been doing my best and trying to have the best things to do, the best things to say or play or whatever. But I'm not doing anything original. It takes a level of introspection and mastery, I should say. It takes a level of understanding what you're doing that some artists never reach. That's kind of weird. Like, it feels very. That's why I think it just adds to the surrealism of this thing here. It's just like this guy starts out. He's onto. I'm gonna copy all the things. Like, of course he's the best, and he paints and does all the things. At least if we take him at his word, obviously.
I think I think that people that like genuinely create, like, they don't plagiarize at all, like, they still feel unoriginal and inadequate for like years and years before they get anywhere.
Yeah, but you need to be good to get to that point, I think. Like, you need to have...
again, there's always a level of confidence required to be creative, because, like, how do you like, someone is always going to tell you're not. It's like, oh, you've stolen this, or you're not original, you're not creative, you're not unique. And the idea is you just need to be able to push through that, to like, okay, well, that doesn't, like, there's a difference between intentionally stealing and not. And creating something without the intention of stealing from it is, it's eventually that usually spawns into your own style. Like, that will turn into a thing that is uniquely you. Like, even if there are tones, like you're talking about music, even if, every chord has been played before, no one's gonna, it's not like someone's gonna show up and find a new chord that's never been done before. But even like the placement of them has probably already been done too. But the way that you place them, the style at which your music is made, can be uniquely your own. Just as much as like painting. Like, it's
there's so much freedom in art. Like, you can, I suppose music, when you're playing music, it's a little bit different, but like, for using the other example that I used, like acting, if you can act the same way that another actor acts, and in a specific role, like, you act the same way, you're doing all the same things, but just because of maybe it's because of the fact that you're like, you're imitating an actor from the 50s, and you're playing that acting right now, that adds value, and that adds a different perspective to your performance. So your art is necessarily different, your acting is necessarily different, even though it's exactly the same. And just because of the context, it's different, and it reads different. And the same goes for music and playing things like stuff that's like classical music, playing the same way that people played back then. Nobody does that. But if you copy them, if you go back 200 years and you copy the same techniques and sort of whatever, all the things involved in music today, you're making a statement, because you're going out of your way to do something that is not normal. So you're even though you're copying something, you're making a statement, and it's new. And art, like, not necessarily art as a thing, but rather human communication. because that's what art is. It's just us communicating with each other through different means. Like we can say the same words to each other, and whatever else we do to communicate, we can do the same exact thing, and it lands differently just because of the context. And I think obviously that's something that understanding that difference as part of art is what defines art, and the whole thing about if it's not art if it's for commercial purposes, or it's not art if it's not masterful, or like very well drawn or whatever. Like all the different people have different ideas of what art is, and over the years and centuries, the definition also changes. But like it's unavoidable that even if you don't call it art, like even simple things like what we're doing right now is more meaningful and more communicative and more original than a lot of what people could consider art in more commercial senses, in more like maybe like a painter just copying a picture or a painting for just to sell or whatever, you know what I mean? Like what we're doing right now, which we wouldn't normally consider art, is more art than a lot of art, basically is what I'm saying. Not to toot my own horn, I'm just saying that I'm really trying not to. I'm not saying that podcasts are art.
Take
what
that, Picasso. I've got a podcast.
Yeah, you heard it here first, guys. We're high art.
Although Let's Plays are art, but not podcasts. Podcasts are not. Well, what I'm saying is like we communicate so much through art that's what gives it value, is what I mean to say.
I can see that. I do get where you're coming from.
So yeah, even this guy that copies everything, the choosing of what to copy is part of his process, is part of his persona. And yeah, he might copy everything.
He's just
but
ahead of the time. It's transformative remix culture.
Yeah, yeah.
Boom, redemption story.
Yeah.
Cold Weather did nothing wrong.
Wow. I can't believe
that's just called sampling.
A person I've explicitly written to be bad also has a redemption option.
Yeah.
Great. It's truly amazing, the human spirit.
Human spirit. It's all this Lowe's fault. She doesn't give him the chance.
Exactly. There's it's the I guess in a sense that's why I was trying to pair his rival being somebody who actually was talented in the art, is because there is an intention. Like when you are creating something, you can tell the intention of other people's creations. Especially the more closer you are to the thing. And so it's not that the idea is, she knew his poetry wasn't genuine. It wasn't coming from a place of somebody who had like a passion or like any kind of interest or passion for the art. It was more of just creating something and going beyond that of like, okay, well, you're not even creating something original, you're creating stuff that I know exists already. So like an average person may not focus on that more. It's just more about the consumption.
Is there a screaming child?
Yeah, there's kids across the street, and sometimes they exist and sometimes they don't. It's fine.
Or are you listening to true crime podcasts again?
The child blender.
Yeah, unfortunately, there's just a lot of children within the vicinity of me, and parents that don't want to hang out with their children, so they go outside and play with each other, which I guess is good. It's better than kids. I don't know actually what they're doing, so maybe they're outside TikToking. I was going to say it's better than them sitting on the phone all day, but I don't actually know what they're doing out there. So
don't sit on your phone.
There's no more play, only internet performance.
For all I know, they're out there actually just screaming about Pokemon
Gotta get my brand
battles.
going at age 7.
Exactly.
Wow.
Got to get in early.
Monetize your kindergarten interests.
Look, all I have to say is if I had social media when I was that age, I would be way more wealthier than I am today, because I was jumping off roofs and showing and like recording kids doing tricks on skateboards.
We're past the age of Jackass.
Andrew. Oh no, but when I was young, we were
There's
not.
a new one.
That's the important part.
Oh wait, there's a new one? That's a,
Yeah,
Yeah,
there's
a
also
new
right then,
Jackass came out like this week. You chose hilarious timing.
What the hell? Is it?
We're never past
Is he gonna-
Jackass. We'll never be past it.
I mean, they die eventually.
I meant as a species,
die
we'll
very-
always enjoy the concept
In
of
the-
Jackass.
In the
Jackass
series?
Forever came out February 4th.
That's crazy. I feel
I mean,
bad.
that's a
Meow.
That's a very
Poor Johnny
teenager
Knoxville.
kind of show.
I really get a kick out of those movies until poop happens, and then I'm really annoyed.
What?
I don't like it.
Like,
What?
it's true.
There was,
Poop
I think
happens?
Jackass 3 had like a fucking like diorama of like a volcano, and he like shat vertically out of it. I'm like, I hate this. What
Poop
the
is,
fuck?
is a real vibes killer, honestly.
Throw someone into a lake. Go back to that. I fucking
Was it sold as real though in the US as well?
yeah.
Okay.
I mean, it's
'Cause
reality TV stuff. That's like the premise.
Because that, like, obviously it isn't, but because it's all staged. But
I mean, almost none of it can be even conceptualized as being anything other than stage. It's literally just a guy being like, "I'm gonna do this thing," and then they just do it, and then he's like, "That didn't work great, ow!" And that's the whole scene. There's only like occasional. There's only occasional like, "Oh man, we're in the audience," and or like we're in public and something's happening. Like those are really rare. At least in the movie, I never watched the
very
show.
little. I watched very little when I was a kid. I remember something about balls being thrown out of a building and bicycles. That was the bicycles into a
thrown out
truck.
of a building?
Yeah, I don't remember what it was. I think that was probably just the one movie that I watched or something. I don't remember. I was 12 or something. So no, I wasn't 12. What am I saying? I was probably 16.
Quick,
Still,
I
yeah,
got my
my
story
memory-
straight. They're gonna come for me.
My memory before before 24 years old, it's very hazy. I don't remember stuff.
I remember a lot of Jackass, but I think it's not. I don't think it's like it's not that kind of memory that is what I would imagine they created it for. I just remember it in the sense of like, man, I can't believe grown adults did this thing for money. Like, it's always the like, man, I can't believe like Steve-O let an alligator almost bite his dick off for money. Like he just let that happen.
It's
For
staged.
some reason.
It's staged.
To an extent, like
Well, yeah.
people,
Isn't
these
Steve-O
people
in
do get.
particular famous for being like high as shit for most of that stuff anyway?
Well, yeah, he had a terrible drug problem during most of Jackass, but I mean, again, that doesn't make it better. Like that means
No.
that his motivation for doing such dangerous acts is even worse.
It makes
and
it worse.
And the people around him like contributed to that. Like they were
Yep.
just like, yeah, keep doing it, Steve-O. That's it just seems insidiously bad. But there's like, I think the only times I ever laughed generally during Jackass stuff were always the beginning, like the intro segment to the whole movie. Like silly
the shopping cart.
Yeah, like the shopping cart thing is great. I love those. Those are so fun. It's like this amazing short story. And then it goes to like, and now we're gonna do a bunch of like GoPro recorded skits, and you're like, oh, okay, well I could just go on youtube.com. I don't really need that stuff. I was here for the more like high budget production value thing in the very beginning. That was really fun. Yeah, because like the shopping cart was like through a street and explosions were going off and people were like flying around. Like it's just so over the top and it's great. And then you go to like, all right, I built this like really shitty seesaw and we're gonna throw people off of it by having a really big guy jump onto it. You're like, all right, sure, I guess.
That really is like the that's just the YouTube front page at this point is a bunch of like out of context like 10-second clips of just some shit going down over and over again, and it just tries to loop you into clicking them forever. It seems to do well for people. I was looking at my dashboard recently of like, if you go to the dashboard page in your like not even analytics but just normal dashboard, there's a section at the bottom that's like people who are subscribed to you, sorted by their subscriber counts.
Mm-hmm.
If you can click that, and it defaults to like the last 90 days, but you can set it to be lifetime, just like how many, like who are the highest subscriber channels that have ever subscribed to your channel and so on. I've got like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I got 6 channels that are over 100,000 subscribers subscribed to me, and like one of them is like, I think like a Warriors Cats animator, and the rest of them are all just people that upload like 10-second clips. Like they're meme channels basically, with like no like, and like that's really consistent, and they're like you wouldn't recognize any of their names, and like you are not personality driven content to begin with, but it's just like an endless deluge of these tiny clips that do so well. It's almost like the equivalent of like those, like you click one funny clip about like an out of context like wacky interaction and Elder Scrolls Oblivion, and then they're like, here's 50 more, and then it's like there's a whole channel dedicated just to that basically.
Yeah, I wonder if it's
Like,
bots, if they're like, especially for smaller channels, because you get notified, oh, this person subscribed. That's a way to reach. If you have bots subscribing to random channels, that's a way to reach people.
yeah.
Like on Twitter, where big Twitter accounts will follow you out of nowhere, just so you can see them on your inbox.
I just find it so scary to think about, similar to like phone calls, I guess, that there is, just without our knowledge, trillions of automated shitty bots hanging out, just doing things on the internet, and their goal, their purpose, their length of existence is all just ambiguous. We don't know what they're there for, and some people don't even know that they exist. Like some of them that just showed up out of nowhere and are like, we're just gonna subscribe to everything that we see on the front of YouTube, and you're like, why are you doing this?
I'm gonna see how long it takes to radicalize me.
Yeah, and it's just like, it's so weird to think about, like, when somebody interacts with you on any media platform or social media platform, are they real people? Like, I don't know, like like I have a Twitter reply from a conversation I had in a different thread, and it's like someone, like a bot is talking to me, and they fit all the like premises of a bot. Like, their username is like a name with a bunch of numbers in it. They can't form coherent sentences. They're, like, all of their posts are just like replies and weird screenshots of some, I don't know, with fucking ghosts. I don't know what this is. It's like nightmare stuff. It looks like some kind of weird like nightmare thing. But anyways, but like, is this a real person? Is this a bot? I don't know. But at the same time, like, I don't know. It's weird. It's very weird. And I think it goes back to that kind of like, that's why those 10-second content stuff works out so well. It's because there's like so many, like that small amount of time, like it just happens automatically. And it may not be a bot at the end of them watching, but oftentimes it's like a person just leaving YouTube on and it just runs in the background. And so there's not really a person there. But
I do think about that, like the number of times I pay attention to YouTube whenever I'm using it. Like, I'm either watching the video or I'm multitasking with the video, but like the video is like on my other monitor while I'm using my computer or something. Like, I'm not like leaving the room and doing laundry or like going on errands and driving away. Like, the number of times everyone else in this household will just let YouTube run and like autoplay, and it'll just kind of work through stuff and so on. Like, I'll see like the people will be like working on stuff, or they'll literally just leave, like just go away. Like at one point I was watching a movie and someone came over and started watching the movie with me, and they had just left their computer running in the other room, still playing audio on the speakers of the thing they were watching, and I had to be like, can you stop that? Can you turn it off if you're not even watching it? Like, because I don't know how it's not distracting to you, but it is to me. Like, there's this, I don't understand other people. I don't understand other people in many ways. Like, there's people who will just start playing a YouTube clip on their phone while sitting on a couch full of people watching a movie, and I'm like, what the fuck? I don't understand why you would ever do that. Anyway, I looked at the #1 most subscribers channel that's subscribed to my channel, and they have almost 500,000 subscribers.
What?
And their primary source seems to be a 30-second video that has 150 million views, where they open their back door and there's just like a dozen cats meowing at them, and they throw them a handful of like kibble to eat, and they all jump to eat the food, and
I
that's
think
the whole
that's
video.
I like
That
that.
one video is like my channel.
I like that video. Leave a like and subscribe.
You got-
Leave a like and subscribe. I feel like you could. I don't know. I feel like that's a video I could probably just steal from the internet and
That's probably what happened on that one,
Like-
by the way. It's so
Yeah.
common.
like
It's so common.
I feel like I've seen that video in 7 different ways. Like I've seen raccoons
Yeah.
do it and cats do it and like
I can verify.
fish do
Oh
it.
yeah, there's like those Japanese islands, right? Like the Cat Island and stuff.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Like I saw videos going around of that. I can confirm that this person is authentic, because they're I just saw this. Their YouTube banner is their silver play button in a pile of cat food with the same cats in the same
okay,
on the
so it's
same
on
deck. Like they put their silver play button in that scene. The idea of like just filming your cats for 30-second intervals only a handful of times, and that's your entire channel, and you have a silver play button. It kind of hurts me.
that hurts me a lot. I question a
you know,
lot of
you know what
my-
hurts me? You know what
Uh,
hurts me? I'm looking at the same count, the subscribers, or ordered by subscriber count, and I have
Yeah.
2 channels above 100,000, and none of them is Keith.
Yeah, I don't subscribe to any of you guys. I have you in a bookmarks folder.
I'm kidding. Yeah, I know.
Wow.
I don't. I
'Cause
subscribe to like
YouTube
no
is
gaming
difficult.
content. It's so spammy, and I actually use the subscriber tab.
Wow.
Hey, I only publish a video a day. It's
The
still
primary time
spammy.
I subscribe to any of you guys is sometimes to subscribe to Bird or Andrew when I'm wondering when their channel will come back to life.
Keep
And
it
I'm
as
like-
like a
and then you
tally.
unsubscribe.
Yeah,
go,
then I
yeah.
unsubscribe when they actually upload something. I'm like, oh, they started uploading again. Like, I just want to know. Like, oh, are they ever gonna come back? It's been 6 months. And then I get it. Then one day you're in my inbox. I'm like, oh, they started uploading again.
I don't even
How
know
dare you
how you would.
unsubscribe?
How do you even find out who has the most?
I don't have time to watch a gaming
I know,
channel.
I'm
Do you know how much
kidding.
content they make? I have
busted.
found so many good
Audience.
video essay channels that now there's too many, and I can't keep up with them. Like
You have done a good job.
I just found a guy that did a video on the Cowboy Bebop Netflix series, and he didn't even have 1,000 subscribers yet. And I'm like, look at me go! I'm in at the
Wow.
ground floor. He's gonna be more successful than me.
That is ambitious.
He already is, actually. I'm not gonna be. He already is more successful than me. What is it?
Wait, he has
Yeah.
less than,
Oh,
how
yeah,
many-
his,
you have
uh,
like 3,000 or 5,000.
No,
Or
not
onboarding
subscribers. I mean, his Cowboy Bebop video has 53,000 views already.
Yeah, that
Oh,
thing
that
has
must-
a lot of
and it's
views.
Yeah, but
it's
that's-
his first
That's
video.
selection bias, though. The reason you found
Like,
him is
Jesus
because
Christ.
it has a lot of views.
Yeah,
Not
I
the
didn't
other way
say
around.
people in generally are more successful or whatever. I know the massive graveyard that is at the foot of all of YouTube. I'm saying he is.
Yeah.
I think all of my video essay videos, including all of the jokey not so essay-ish ones combined, have less views than that one video he made.
I'm trying to see. I think looks like
Just gotta
the
blow him out of the water.
channel. Yeah, the channel with the most subscribers is 911K.
That's a lot.
Yeah, that's a lot.
Yeah.
I think it looks like they just do a lot of reactionary stuff. So
Oh, that's bad.
I think he
Or
means
do you
mean
yeah,
like
reaction
reactions.
stuff?
yeah, I think they just yeah, they're just like talking. It looks like they like just do a lot of like silly skit reaction stuff. I don't. Yeah, it's not like gameplay footage. It's just mostly skits. Like it's just like a skit comedy channel, like you would see back in like Smosh days or whatever. And sometimes they talk about current events. So that's probably why, I guess, because most of these videos are like less than 10 minutes. So it's probably why they have so many views, because you can get through their entire catalog in like, like a month or something, and that's like perfect binge content. let's see, what is their most popular thing is a 16-minute video. So yeah, I mean, that makes sense. The but I don't know. I mean, that's not the type of content I make. I mean, Colonel's here on the top 10 list.
Yay!
So it like they're the way outliers here. It goes from like 911,000 to like 76,000 very quickly. So yeah, I don't know. I don't even know why any of these people, they're probably not subscribed for me. They're probably subscribed for back when the channel was like, 2013, 2014, 2015.
Oh, it says when they subscribed.
Yeah, it says when they subscribed. So this is back way before it was just my channel alone, obviously. Because all the people that are here for date subscribed or have like no subscribers.
They're all dead.
Yeah,
they just forgot. They haven't logged in since 2016.
They don't need to.
Well, my top channel has 245K, and it's a gaming channel actually about anime games, and I think it's mostly anime games. And it does stuff like top 10 things, and let me see what the most popular is. Genshin Impact something or other. Yeah.
There you go.
Sort of. So I'm actually on point with my subscribers like games. Well, my top subscriber. This is weird with a subscriber count.
So yeah, I've got a guy that makes Sims 4 builds.
Sims 4
This feels
builds.
weird because some of the people I'm talking about
I may know him.
will see the video.
Oh, well, if he's the top subscriber.
It feels weird to call people out. I don't want to name anybody because there's only two outcomes.
No.
There's only two outcomes that happen when you name somebody. It's either nothing happens or they leave.
Or they
there's almost
leave.
there's almost no positive outcome to mentioning somebody. Because it's pretty much just those.
Yeah, I don't know them.
I've had a couple months where I'm like, oh shit, that guy's in the comments, and then they never show up again. I'm like, wow, ooh, I shouldn't have responded to them.
That's how YouTube works.
They felt singled out.
Actually, speaking of how YouTube works, today I filled out the survey that YouTube is sending to creators about, hey, here's your chance to make YouTube better. And I'm like clicking the button and thinking, make the dashboard customizable, make the dashboard customizable. And obviously I wrote that in that bit, but I was really negative today when they asked me, how satisfied are you with the monetary compensation? Very dissatisfied. And I'm gaining the same as I was, but it's a sham. It's a freaking
Why
sham.
haven't you decided that I'm the god of YouTube? I can be Markiplier. It's easy. He just makes noises.
Creators in general, because they freaking they make the platform for creators that aren't here. Like, this is a weird ecosystem where, like, people who are you never hear people being successful. Or big channels. I mean, maybe big channels like Linus Tech Tips or something that's different. But like individual people with single person channels, you never hear them be like, "Oh yeah, YouTube is really making changes that are making my channel grow." It's always like new channels that show up. Oh yeah, YouTube made changes that made my channel grow, and then they get the chopping block next time.
Oh, like people just kind of show up and then they're suddenly huge.
Yeah, I would wonder if you would actually even say anything or notice that. Like, I feel like you notice when something breaks, but you're not going to notice when something's going well. You think your success is your own, because of your own actions, not because YouTube like changed the algorithm. There are obviously times where like I can see you would be questionable about that. Like if you notice that something just takes off unnaturally. And you're like, what happened? You know, like you have a video that no one's ever watched in the past year and suddenly it has like 50,000 views. You're like, something changed.
It's weird like that, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but otherwise, I don't think you would
for
ever
us, it's
attribute...
usually Epic's giving this game out for free. And for some reason, when they put it out for free, everyone watches videos about it instead of just playing the free game they already have.
I think because they want to see if it's worth waiting for the download to finish.
No, because nobody plays games anymore.
They just share experiences.
Yeah.
Jeez.
Ain't nobody got time to play games. We
I
got
don't get
social
it.
media to comment on and things.
I don't get how people work anymore. I play
You don't need
video
to.
games. I play the video games, shockingly. I don't.
It's good to play
So
the video game.
there is like an
as you
element where
watch-
people think they need to share in order the experience in order to like feel like it's real or something.
I mean, on a certain level, that's true. And also, Keith, that's high. That's interesting coming from you, the Let's Player,
Yeah, because I'm sharing it while I'm playing it.
who doesn't play
Like-
games when he's not online.
Well, I play enough games.
It's true, but like, it's mighty.
Do you?
And I have an especially not game playing hobby that I do now. And so that's
Do
pretty much what keeps me
you-
busy.
Did you pick up the guitar?
No, I write long scripts that I never finish, and
Oh,
then I throw them in
that
the
one.
garbage and start new ones, and then
No,
that
don't throw
repeats
them in
for
the
4
garbage.
months.
Save them for a year, because then when you go back, you're gonna go, this was really good.
I made a post on
Yeah.
Patreon that it was like excerpts that were like vaguely salvageable from like all the different scripts I had, and it was really a moment of like, oh fuck, really? When I looked at my own progress there, because I was just like, Jesus Christ. The document itself is 12,000 words or 26 pages, and it's
That's a
from
lot.
it's a 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8 9 10 11 12 13 different essays.
Oh my god.
Yeah, I mean, they're unfinished.
And those aren't even the stubs, but they're like each one's like more than a
That's
page.
a lot. Yeah.
It's about 2 pages on average per essay. That's just like the excerpt I chose to share, not even the full thing I worked on.
Oh,
Like that's
okay.
that's how like widely spread I am between different ideas that I could potentially develop that are just like fucking everywhere. It's just a mess.
Do it.
I will
like
never
I
run out
do
of
with my.
ideas.
Do it like I do with my songs. Record them and put them in a cupboard, and then a few years later, you go back and like, this was actually nice. Or
I
you
always
don't.
run into some kind of block where I have something that I can't figure out how to attack, like how to phrase the topic or how to approach it, or the entire thing starts to have a structure that doesn't make sense, and I'm like, this whole thing doesn't. How do I connect these ideas as an actual structured thing? Because it warped into something else. Or one of the most disheartening things is sometimes I'll really get into writing about something for like a day, and then realize the whole thing I wrote doesn't actually fit the essay that I was in. Like it was just a rant essentially.
Mhm.
I've essentially finished 2 essays recently that are probably going to become videos. One about Stan and one about Legoshi. That both
And
like
the Stalker.
the song.
Yeah.
Oh, the song,
and
yeah.
and they're both spin-offs from other essays. They're both like this tangent. The more it develops, just does not actually fit with the larger thing I was working on. So it's like, I guess I'll just make like I could if I can revise them into a state I'm happy with, then they can turn into like the equivalent of the Zelda video. That's just like a little 10-minute thing. And then they cease to be a distracting thing in the middle of the other video, but I also get to have content now-ish as opposed to waiting for those mega projects to finish. But yeah, like that was I wasn't ready for how long I was just trying to give Patreon something a bit and also kind of feel better about my various unfinished projects, but I was not ready for how long that document got or how many separate essays there were, because even I had lost track of how many there were.
Yeah. I found recently, or a month ago or something, I found a channel that's relatively new that's all that, it's essays as well. I shared it with you, Keith, and then you said, yeah, I found him like last year. One thing, this is FD Signifier is the channel. And
we were talking about
one
meteoric rises and shit, and that's what was coming to mind, and I was like, oh yeah, like Ro Ramden, CJ the X, and FD Signifier just fucking exploded recently.
The thing-
and even you look at any of their
thing-
channels, none of their videos even say like 2 years ago, and I'm like,
The thing that I noticed thirdly, from just a technical perspective, is how capable he is to sort of stick to a subject. And obviously he has a lot of things to say, but you can tell that there's missing pieces from his scripts, or maybe that's not something that's in my head. Maybe there are none, but then just because of the way he writes. But it feels like sometimes it's like there's avenues that you could go on, and maybe he's not fully explaining this context or whatever, and he does that on purpose because then he does other videos that explains that. But I like that works well on YouTube because obviously, like if you talk about a subject and leave pieces missing, then people are going to want to watch the other video that's about that. And the mistake is linking it in the middle of the video, because nobody's going to watch another video in the middle of another video unless it's
you forget.
But the leaving stuff unsaid is very effective, I feel, to make people binge watch.
It's like when I would watch Always a Bigger Fish by Innuendo Studios, and every single time I watch that video, which is fairly often the whole handbook or playbook series, I always hear the voice of the guy at the beginning, and I'm like, who the fuck's that guy? He sounds like he's like a dude somewhere on YouTube or something. I should check out what his channel is or see if I can find who he is or something. And then by the time the video's over, I always forget. It was like literally years later when I was watching again that I finally remembered to check who he was. I'm like, oh, it's Steve Shives, a Star Trek YouTuber. And then via him, I watched some of his more popular videos or something, and then found via him Jesse Gender because they collaborated, and that's like been like that leads to like a train of finding more channels and so that. But it all was because it took me like I only just now am watching both of their channels after it took me like probably like 3 or 4 years to finally follow up on that nagging thought of like, I should look into who that voice is at the beginning of this video. That's because I would always forget by the time the video's over. Like mid-video plugs don't work at all.
Dives also does a stuffed animals comic thing. That's pretty cool. He does Star Trek a lot. Or he used to do anyway. I found Jesse
Stuffed
Gender
animals?
as well through his channel.
Yeah.
it's kind of funny because it was like we mentioned her. I think it was 2 weeks or 3 weeks ago, and I had found her channel like a few days before.
Yeah. It's the algorithm. Our fates are intertwined. So when whoever I follow, it suggests them to you a few weeks later. That's how you've actually found, like via osmosis, you've been given FD Signifier and Jesse Gender through me.
Mm-hmm.
I wonder if it does that sometimes because you're subscribed to me technically. So I'm like, I wonder if the Twitter shit happens where it's like, oh, he liked this and now it's going to send him to all his viewers. Like, does it algorithmically share the people that you follow's interests? I don't even know.
It probably should. It doesn't sound like it's any harder than matching all the views, because matching all the views is so computationally intensive to see where, people who watch this video go majorly to watch this video, and then categorizing all that sort of stuff, and that's what YouTube does. But through subscriptions, it's a lot cleaner. So it should. That's the thing. That's what started me on the rant about YouTube's survey. I like if YouTube wanted to help its creators, and this is weird what I'm about to say, but maybe it is weird. But if YouTube wanted to help its current creators that exist currently and are creating, what it should do is it should allow viewers to sort their subscriptions. Go into their subscriptions page and have freaking sort buttons, things that think like,
sort by
I
what?
only want to see this genre or this channel or this thing. It should have tools for people to use their freaking subscriptions instead of like being a vague nebulous thing that doesn't mean anything because people don't use them.
I use them.
It would be a lot better if the subscriptions tab itself was given
love
as much or more attention than the homepage gets.
Like, it needs way more.
It should be something that, like, I don't know. I think you should incentivize people to use it. Give people like customization options. Give people, like you're talking about, like you can choose what you want to show up there, or like, yeah, why can't you just have like think of it like a dashboard, like a hub. You can show up and say, okay, here's my list of Let's Players. Here's my list of these kinds of people, and like I only want to see, I want to see the videos from these people in this section, new videos from these people in this section, and that way it's not just a flooded screen. You can just like organize it a little bit more efficiently. You can have other stuff like could you put like the video I was trying to watch but left behind like front and center, and then below it have like different playlists that I am trying to get through, like my video essays and let's plays and cooking videos or whatever. And that way you can like basically you should have your subscriptions feed, your subscriptions page should be the default page that you spend all your time on. It should be where you want to spend the most amount of time because it has all the content that you literally go to the website for. And you can have your
Sorry, keep going.
Oh no, I was just gonna say you can have your whatever YouTube does, like on the sidebar, you can have like when you load a video, it shows like these are some recommended videos or whatever the crap it wants to do. But I think
that's exactly what I was gonna say.
Yeah, but I think like the necessity for trying to merge people to everyone should be on the front page is a terrible idea because it doesn't work for anyone. It doesn't work for getting new creators seen. It doesn't. But it does it. I don't think
it works for YouTube. It works for the people making money, and that's the problem. Also,
but the people making the money are generally people whose subscribers come back. They're the people who had to go out of their way to tell their subscribers to go against the system YouTube created. I don't think that like I guess there's some level that the algorithm assumes that after 75 million people watched a PewDiePie video, maybe we should put it on the front page. Sure. But like it's not as if the YouTube front page doesn't instinctively give me a new PewDiePie video when it comes out. It doesn't instantly do that, which if it was a good system, it would know that this is going to be a popular video. It should be front and center. And it would also do that if it knew based on my subscriptions that it's a video I might watch because I also subscribe to quote unquote gaming channels. I don't know what his channel is, but it's whatever.
There is a balance though. It's very obvious. I think in my head, it's very obvious what I'm about to say. But so what YouTube wants is not to piss anybody off, obviously. But what it wants is like it's got all these videos in its hands, and some of them are more profitable than others. Like there's this video about cats, and that one advertisers they're good. They pay $2 for that one. It's good. And then there's this video about a long play of Dark Souls or whatever, and then advertisers don't pay as much. It's only $1 for that one. Or for whatever reason, there's this differences. So YouTube has a vested interest in showing anybody, literally anybody, showing the cats video instead of the Dark Souls. So it's always a freaking balance between YouTube not being just showing the latest videos of PewDiePie or cats, but also like it just permeates everything. It's if you like Dark Souls, it's gonna show you the Dark Souls. But the moment you watch a cat video in Dark Souls, that's it, forever cats, because that pays more. And that's why they want, first off, that's why they want people to go to the main page, because that's where they have their algorithm-driven content. And it's as you said, like, there's no reason why they can't have that as well in the subscriptions page if they remake their or you didn't say it in the subscriptions page, but like they could have algorithmically driven content in the subscriptions page if they reframed it and if they made it to be like that.
Yeah,
they could have
I'm
things
imagining...
like suggest me another channel like this, or suggest me a video or a playlist for videos like this. They love their mixes because they're algorithmically driven, because they prioritize the cat videos.
In my head, I'm imagining that like a good subscriptions page would have like the playlist, like when you when you watch a playlist, it has that little thing of like, here's the next video or whatever to watch. It has that as like an option that you can put wherever you want on the screen. And at the top is always the video that you're watching. And it has like the line below it where you can click to expand, and it brings all the comments and descriptions and whatever the hell. And then to the side, it has that same bar that's on every video where it has like, okay, here's like 16 videos that you probably don't ever want to watch.
You keep that to the side?
Yeah, you just keep that to the side, and you have the video in the front. It's basically the same. You have the exact same page that you look at right now to go play videos, except the bottom of the screen. Like, so when you, instead of it just being defaulting to comments, because why? Instead of it defaulting to comment section, it just shows the video proper. And then it shows all the things that you care about, like the other videos that you want to specifically watch. And then onto the side, you have your little advertisement section or whatever for videos you want to. push to people. And then if you want to look at comments for some god reason, or you want to look at the description, it has that little bar like it already does. You just click the arrow and it comes down, and you just scroll. It's like an iframe. You
That's
just
on
scroll
mobile,
through
though,
it.
I think
What?
that bar that you're referring to, I think it's on.
No, it shows up in regular YouTube too. If you're
when
on,
you're in
if
a
you're
playlist mode, yeah.
Yeah, and because it
That
also
is an
does it for
interesting-
descriptions
yeah.
too. Like descriptions don't.
I mean-
it says like show more or whatever.
They would never design it like that just for the sake of it. It sounds good to me. Oh, there's the caveat of people like me who have the extended view on or the theater mode on. I have it all.
Yeah,
always on.
I do too. Yeah,
Yeah.
but
so there's
but,
that
but
caveat.
you had. But I'm thinking of in the sense of like YouTube wants to be a social media site. It keeps adding these shitty social media features. It keeps trying to like cater to this hot TikTok phenomenon of like 30-second videos at most. So like, why not just create a page that people would want to sit on and watch the things they want to watch, but you also give them opportunities to watch other stuff? Like I don't know. I just like I'm thinking of like, I guess I always just keep defaulting back to like the Facebook idea. Like it's so genius to give people an incentive to go back to a page that they have had control over, that they created, because it incentivizes you to keep going back to the thing that you invested time in making. And the subscriptions page doesn't feel like that. It feels like it feels like the front page, but with channels that you actually want to watch. But it's still just a dump, and you don't get to control in what order. By default, you don't get to control like, what genres you want to look at, because YouTube categorizes all its videos. All of YouTube's videos are categorized already. You have like, you have like gameplay or blogging or whatever. So why can't you just say, here's a list of all the channels that fit into this category, please? Or
like the category,
or you could just say, I only want to watch videos I want like an entire sidebar on the bottom dedicated to just videos from this channel, because I'm going through their entire backlog. I don't want to have to keep going to videos, click on the video, then go back to their channel, then click on videos, go to the video, click up, like it's such a bad process. But if I click subscribe, go onto one page, bring up that content creator, and just go through every single video that they have without having to deal with like 6 different interfaces, I would be more inclined to sitting on that page for long periods of time, which means that there's a higher chance that I will see the sidebar videos and a higher chance that I will engage with advertisement. Like I don't the precious time you're losing between people leaving the video page, going to another page, clicking on the video they want is like all time that you're not advertising to someone. That's incredibly wasteful. Like it's just very weird.
But they don't want
together.
people doing that though. That's why it is like that. They don't want people binge watching a channel.
Why wouldn't
wanna
they?
give you
You
the
still
cats
have
video.
advertisements on it. All they care about are the ads.
but the ads aren't the same across all videos.
You guys notice that they
but that's-
removed the progress bar from recommended videos so that you'd forget if you watch them or not?
Yeah,
I did not notice this.
I did notice that. But it's okay because I
Where's-
never fucking click on the stupid recommended thing,
Oh,
so
it's
it
on the
doesn't matter.
sidebar, right?
Yeah, it's on the sidebar.
Yeah, on the
But, like,
sidebar, it'll straight up be like, "Hey, you want to watch the folding ideas video about chicken nuggets again? Again?
Yeah,
Again?"
Yeah, they're just making that thing less useful because I don't
Which-
use it because it is already not useful.
exactly. And that's the point I'm trying to make here is that I think that YouTube keeps like, and maybe it's just a long con that we all just don't have an idea of. But it feels as if they just keep making the site less and less user friendly. They're just making it not ideal for people to want to use in any capacity. Like why would I want to go to YouTube? It would be so much easier if I could just like TikTok makes sense. You just show up and there's videos there and you just scroll through them and they keep playing for you.
That is
like why
I hate that
What,
so
like,
much.
Yeah, you hate that, but new people would fucking hate going through YouTube's system. It sucks trying to figure out stuff. So like, why wouldn't you just take the easy avenue? I'm just gonna swipe through a bunch of like hundreds of thousand fucking videos. Wow, this is so effortless. I don't have to I don't have to worry about anything. Oh, I don't like that person. I could just press a button and it'll never show up again. Like, that's so much easier than it would be to try to like navigate some archaic old web mixed with new web mixed with whatever someone forgot and abandoned 10 years ago web. Like, it's such a weird, I don't know what, I just don't know where YouTube wants to be. I don't know what it wants to be.
YouTube doesn't know either.
It doesn't want to be itself. It doesn't want to be a social media site. It doesn't want to be the future, but it also wants to be all of those things. And so it's like, well, all right, but I don't know. You fail at doing all of them, but you also seem to not want to be any of them. So I'm not surprised that people don't. I'm not surprised that so people complain about their videos not doing well or being confused about how algorithms work, because it's just, I don't think the site understands how it works. I think it just, people just do a thing, and it's so big that any choice that's made is always going to cause rumbles, and people
I've
just
still
have
never
to,
seen evidence of this thing where supposedly they don't send videos to subscribers. I'm convinced
know,
that that's
it
just people
depends.
using the website wrong.
well,
I think
yeah,
it's
I
just
mean, I
Like
think
they're
that's
like they're only using the front page and expecting it to show them 100% of the videos of all of the things they're subscribed to somehow. And it's like,
yeah, absolutely.
no, that's what the subscriptions tab is, dumbass.
Well, yeah, but where is like, but when you go to the subscriptions tab, let's see.
I've never seen the subscription not showing one particular channel. I have seen the subscription
Yeah.
showing channels that I'm not subscribed to, but that's
What?
because yeah. There's just like, if you unsubscribe, sometimes it will still show their videos for a little while on your subscriptions.
Oh.
And I say a little while, like a few hours. It happened to
Yeah.
me twice. It's just, that's normal. That's cash.
Whenever I hear
servers. It's
complaints about that, I'm like, I don't know, man. I've been on this platform for my life practically, and I work here, and this tab is open all the time. I have never like been like, oh, what do you mean? What do you mean a video came out from that channel that I love? I can't believe I missed
Yeah.
it. It's like, no, I saw it. I just didn't get around to it because there's so many videos. But like, there's no like mysteries. Like, oh, it snuck past me that just didn't show up in my subscriber tab. It's like, no. You're looking at a page that shows you like 6 videos on the front page and it just has to pick some. Like that's not the same thing at all. That
yeah,
was
I
like a
don't-
weird
I-
misconception that was going around for so long, and I'm like, that's just not happening as far as I can tell.
Yeah, I mean, that's I think it was just more excuses to create engagement,
FUD.
right? Because the idea here is that you people, then the response was people saying like, oh, you got to click the bell, you got to get notified.
Yeah.
And like
the YouTuber
that-
can talk about how like they're being attacked by YouTube and their
Yeah.
channels being suppressed. So like, comment, subscribe, and interact and share and so on. Yeah,
exactly. It's
there's
just
channels
you're
that
just
never shut up about how under attack they are, and it's probably
Yeah.
because they noticed that it worked.
exactly.
yeah.
And so, because I remember there was also there's the cute little thing that stopped happening, which was like YouTube used to show you like how many subscribers were watching your video and how many non-subscribers were watching your video. You're like, see, there's only 50% of subscribers watching videos.
Yeah,
Where are the
I was
other
gonna say.
50%? And you're like, well, eventually that stops happening because people are like, hey, that's because those accounts are bots and they don't actually exist. It's like,
No,
well,
actually,
you guys gotta.
actually, it's a good thing that there's 50%. Well, actually, 50% is probably not a great number. You want a vast majority of your views to come from non-subscribers, because it means you're
Well,
doing
yeah,
well in the
I-
searches.
That's
and you're
that's
doing
the
well in,
thing. It's like I
pushing.
think that's why people stopped doing it, because it looks really stupid to say that.
It's
because
really
if you have
stupid, yeah.
100, if you have 100% of your viewers are subscribers, that's not a very good metric to tell people, because it means that no one new is coming to watch your videos.
Yeah, basically.
You don't want that. You would that's
Yeah.
actively telling people to stop
If you have a
subscribing
YouTube
because it
channel,
looks like
it shrinks every day.
yeah.
So you need to be also growing faster.
And so like and again, so I think it's just like he said, it's just people want an excuse to be attacked, and so those are good tools to make it look like you are under attack. But eventually, eventually that stops, or people just like give up and say like, no, this is too much, or it doesn't work.
And that's
like,
when you
see,
when you create drama with someone.
That's true. It's always good to create drama. I wish I had people to create drama with. I only got myself, and I'm really good at creating
Andrew,
drama with myself.
You can create drama with me.
Is that really gonna work?
I'm very bad at it, but I can try.
See? I mean, There hasn't been a VidCon in like 2 years, which is a really big problem because that's the great place to come do drama. You just show up wearing like a tingle suit and you start throwing cake on people. They're gonna talk about you real quick on TikTok and YouTube and everywhere, and then you get the subscribers.
I have a lot of trouble with that much drama in public. It's complicated.
I don't know. I'm not a genius here when it comes to marketing yourself for YouTube, obviously, since my channel's not very successful. But I don't really know I can't imagine what the benefit of drama would be. It just sounds mentally exhausting to deal with like two different, I don't know, like to have two different...
A lot of people talking about you.
Yeah, it's like two different groups
you have
of
to
people.
get a specific kind of drama that isn't like you're a monster. Because then you just get carpet bombed.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah, that's exactly the problem.
But, oh man, a feud. Something about fucking a Paul brother is gonna box some other guy.
No,
I don't. His name's forgotten now. But
the other guy or the Paul brother?
The other guy. But like for a while there, I literally only knew his name because it kept coming up in news things about the stupid boxing match that I didn't want to hear about but kept hearing about. And it's like, that's a lot. I mean, that's effective advertising because I had never heard of that guy. And I only knew about him because he kept fucking coming up in those stories, but I never pursued that, obviously. So I'm back to not remembering him again.
Fair.
The end. Good night, everybody.
Bye-bye.
We're over time.
Your food has arrived, you mean?
No, I've been eating for a while now.
Ah, dang it.
Of course,
yeah, no, I got up and left at one point and came back with my food because it had arrived.
I figured that much because there was like dead silence. I was like, okay, Keith's either eaten or he's gone to get his food.
No, there was a chunk where it was like, oh, the text message is saying that it's here. It's 10 minutes old already. I'm just gonna go. And so I went and got it.
Sure.
It is sweet and sour fish fillet.
It's time to end it then.
It's got
see you next week for my story
and carrot.
I hope so.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Time, and then he'll time travel back to this podcast and perform it this week instead. Crazy.
Whoa!
No, that's a bad idea in the story that I'm making. It's really bad.
We should incorporate the podcast and being late in the story.
Oh, no, don't make it more complicated than it already is.
More complicated. 5,000 words. Your word count just went up.
Oh my god. Yeah, you have a word count with interest.
That's
if you don't get it done in time, you fail the class, and also the nearest student in the class also fails. We'll just pick one.
What?
Those are stakes.
Yeah,
that sounds like
it's like in the military where they just punish the rest of the people instead of you.
That sounds great. That's a great way to build camaraderie.
You don't do
or
that
the
in
opposite
our
word.
If everyone hates you, they all work together.
Oh god. All right. Good night, everybody. See you next week.
Goodbye.